land of the free, and you'll know us by the trail of dead. It's just one more world war to complete the set. When you live by the pike, you die by the pith. You die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth, or crying divine epithets in pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. Well, I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense of faltering senses and altered events. Like hun, it ain't a hearse, it's a reaper's stretch. Ah, how sweet, she said. Bunch of hordes in the street like it's Evil Dead, where the thin blue line meets razor's edge, and where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stomps each finger and watches you fall to your death and drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder who gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections, step by step till the next election, when it's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. That's harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Maybe that's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen, being guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths of much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look up at the shine of the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the Heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, and then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. And I hope all the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID for boosting their boosters and doing their part are now equally thrilled to be starstruck martyrs, all laid in a government grave with anonymous markers, like you're back from the carvers and off to the splicer. You're the very first wave to be slain in the war against Pfizer, that 100 years war against Pfizer. They are thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from those inhuman misers, who all sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profit for Kaiser. Still the Dems want you nicer. Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. Yeah, they all want you graciously starving in silence. You will speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binders. All bled, bone dry, then fed to the grinder. Our headstones line each step as reminders. That's a lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Workers bled, bone dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. Fed by the fed to the grinder. Now the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you'll mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. And the fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, bleeds you dry, then dines on the dead. The fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. The fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you'll mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. yourself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. People, you don't think I see you crying in your cars, but I do. Sometimes I can feel it at a red light, someone at my side trying to muddle through. See them wiping their eyes in the rear view, like black hole sun in the sky. Why the fuck won't you come when I need you? Well, this moment in time is as close as we'll be and as far as I'll meet you. Two windows in between us, new moon in the house of Venus. One stranger who sees you and reads your features knows that your alibi might be tight, but it's not quite leak-proof. So if you're sitting at the light and you're crying in your car, just know that I see you. And it's a 50-50 that I'm bloodshot, gun-shy, once bitten, twice tried, ribs pried wide to the sky till I'm see-through.
That's you, in case you don't recognize yourself.
You don't think I see you struggling to breathe, but I do. I see you stumble in your everyday grief like I do. I try, but I do. I'm twice bitten too. My mind's split in two. My knuckles bright white from the 10 to the 2. And the song in my head is the theme for a fugue. A state of decay through the filter of corporate news, where they edit the grays and the blues. They whitewash the brown till they drown out the natural hues. And then it's just another fact to refuse, that the corporate ladders for hanging the company noose. Consider it one of your perks, after all it's communal in use. So you can come and hang till your legs go limp and they're shaking you loose.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It's Wednesday. We're back. We did it.
Wait.
What?
Wait. Did you get?
What?
Oh, did you get a haircut?
No, it's just ponytailed.
Oh, okay.
So you gotta bring it together. You gotta get your stuff and get it all together. So I know you wish you could ponytail up, but it might be difficult for you. I feel like, so.
even when I had even when I had hair, it would have been with my type of hair that I had, it would have been I couldn't even get like locks. It's not to
Right.
say it's not to say that I couldn't. It would have took forever, and my hair was just very tight. So like it
Yeah.
would grow, like my curls were very tight. So like it wouldn't grow.
Yeah.
Like it will kind of stop at like a certain point. So I can like have like a poof. I wasn't
Right.
able to do that. So
Yeah.
like I had a small poof.
You got to get the relaxer in there and the Jerry curl juice.
no,
You got to
it
let your
was
soul glow. You know?
Well, no, actually, when I did lock it in college, for the brief time I locked it in college, like I had to use wax and like, and it just the maintenance of it in
Jojoba.
order to maintain it, just too
Yeah.
much. So I took it out. But,
like got rid of it. We're
but
not doing
even-
that.
Yeah, but even when then, I wouldn't have been able to do that with the type of hair I had. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
good.
how are you doing?
But
You doing all
you're
right?
back.
I'm back. We got our computer worked
Yeah, as
out.
we said last week, shout out to Indie. Thank you for co-hosting with me last week, but you were away because your computer went sicky poo. But I think you fixed everything, so now your computer is fine. As he walks away, but I'm all right. It's cold now in DC. Well, at least it's starting to be. So we're in the I like to say in DC, fall only happens for like
2
a
minutes.
true sense of fall, but like basically, and then it starts getting cold. Although it's been kind of mild for the over the last winters for the last couple of years at least. So we'll see if we have a repeat of that this upcoming winter. But yeah, it's definitely like not summer anymore. Like wake up in the morning and it's cold, so now I have to wear a jacket and pants. Yeah, but I'm other than the fact that I'm tired right now, it's just a long day at work, and I had a meet and greet event with one of my council people after work, and then getting here, did a very quick workout just to finish out what I didn't get to yesterday, and I'm here with
Nice.
you and all of you
Yay.
watching. We appreciate you all coming in.
Yeah.
Trailing in all 14, I think 14, at least on my screen. Now 13 of you.
People are shuffling it. So anyway, we got some stories. We brought some of those.
Yeah. There's one. Well, the one I'm going to talk about later tonight, I am kind of excited about. I'll explain more in a minute. But obviously, the biggest story that we had to talk about, unfortunately, but there's been an update on this story since yesterday. There was a refugee hospital that basically was set aflames as a retaliation tactic by Israel. So we are going to talk about that story. I know our colleagues in the space have talked about it since it happened over the weekend. So we are going to talk about it and update you on a little more information that I'm sure you guys know that happened regarding the administration regarding the weapons embargo, seemingly, that was reported on yesterday. And then later on tonight, I was away over the weekend. I was in Atlanta, and the algorithm on my YouTube actually recommended this video that we are going to look at briefly.
Will
from
Tennyson.
Will Tennyson.
Yeah, I
He's
recognize him.
YouTuber, pro lifter. I've been
Did a thing with
trying to lose weight.
Francis Ngannou recently, I think, like yesterday.
Okay. I don't watch a lot of his content. Like I've seen some of his stuff. He's just kind of mid. He's just okay.
Yeah.
So obviously been working out more and trying to lose weight. So looking at different exercise body building more YouTubers. So that's what YouTube has been pushing in my feed. So Will Tennyson is one of them. He did a video. I believe he published it maybe about 3 or 4 months ago. In Camden, New Jersey, south of where I grew up.
Yeah.
But talking about how Camden is known as the top city in the world that has the biggest food desert or something to that end. So
Okay.
found that kind of interesting, given that it's my home state. And then, but I found that actually it was surprisingly good. Shout out to the person who essentially toured him on his trip to Camden. But it does relate to given what the things that Obama was saying in terms of the black men vote over the weekend, as well as Kamala's shit black male agenda, which now is no longer a black male agenda. It's just an agenda now, according to Wall Street Journal, I think, reported on today. I thought it was going to be, I'm going to kind of meld the two in terms of the video and how it relates to, some of the issues that we've talked about on the show regarding government, but especially Democrats.
Government.
Yeah, and be interesting, Reef, because I know you're not, well, you didn't grow up in exactly where a type of neighborhood that I used to live, but I'm sure there's similarities that you
Yeah,
can
in some
probably
ways.
identify with. So I definitely want to talk to you about that. So, but yeah, I figured I was just going to report on the video in itself, but there are connections. So we're going to talk about that later tonight. And shout out to Angel, our brother in INN, who was born in Camden. So Angel, we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier this morning. If you're around that late, we'd love to hear your comments based on the video that we'll show later. And then what do you got, Reef?
Oh, I brought a story by Robert Inlakesh on what a U.S.-Iran war would actually look like. I don't think a lot of people have used their foresight in this regard, so we're gonna shove that foresight in people's faces a little bit. So, might not be the win people think that's gonna be. So, yeah. And I also brought a story about how Palestine relates to global capital, right? How that might affect things financially if liberated. So, might be one of the reasons things are the way they are there. So we'll get into that. But yeah, that's what I brought. So, yeah, you ready? I'm ready.
Yeah.
Well, as always, talking about those kinds of stories are why we demonetize. So take out your phone, scan this little QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, and give us a little bit of dollary dues here and there. Appreciate that. And it seems to be one of the few ways, other than that, in CashApp, which you can find at cash.app/$indie-news-network. You guys know how CashApp works by now. Y'all have bought things. We appreciate it there too. And we appreciate all the people who already give to us. Look at all those people. We probably need to update this because we're heavily behind and entirely busy all the time. But we do appreciate you. So, you're nice peoples. All right. First story, K-Bear. Let's go.
Sure. All right. So, I mean, I hate talking about Israel every fucking week, but yeah. So basically, for what I understand, Hezbollah launched a drone strike in Israel. So obviously, as a result, Israel had to retaliate and ended up basically setting a refugee hospital ablaze over the weekend. So, for obvious reasons, we cannot show any of the footage because one,
Yeah.
it's too graphic even for me, YouTube, and all of that.
Yeah.
Two, I wouldn't want to subject you guys to that anyway, because there was literally like hell. If hell exists, that will probably be what hell would be like, just as far as burning bodies, basically crisping up.
Yep.
Which was disgusting to see on Twitter. So, what we're gonna do first, we're gonna play this new segment from CBC News, just to give some details regarding this assault, and then we'll go into an article which gives a little bit more information and some stuff that I was able to pull that, and you also helped me in terms of what is going on the ground there. So why don't we go ahead?
It is another deadly day in the Gaza Strip following a pair of Israeli airstrikes. You're looking at the aftermath of one of those strikes, which hit a hospital courtyard in the central city of Deir al-Balah. It triggered a fire that then swept through a tent camp used by displaced people. The Israeli military says it was targeting militants hiding out among the civilians. Anna Cunningham from London joins us now.
Fucking
Anna,
assholes.
what more do we know about these latest Israeli airstrikes in Gaza?
Morning, Linda. Well, this happened in the early hours of this morning. Let's take a look at some of the footage that came out overnight. The fire from the immediate aftermath of that Israeli airstrike in central Gaza, in the Deir al-Balah district, lighting up the night sky. Now, we understand that this was in a courtyard of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, close to these temporary tents where people have been sheltering. People tried dismantling those shelters to stop that fire spreading. We're told at least 4 people were reportedly killed and some 40 others injured. Now, Israel's defense forces, the IDF, has said it targeted Hamas operatives it says were working from a command and control complex inside the hospital. That's something that Hamas denies. Also, Linda, in northern Gaza earlier, another Israeli strike. This time, Palestinian medics say at least 10 people were killed there, 30 others injured in the Jabalia refugee camp. Now, that was being used, we're told, as a food distribution centre. These strikes come a day after there was a drone strike in the Al-Shati camp in northern Gaza. That reportedly killed 5 children. Also, in central Nusrat camp, there was a school there that was being used as a shelter, and we're told that was hit by a volley of artillery. At least 22 people, including 15 children, reportedly killed there. Linda, the IDF hasn't commented on those strikes.
Yeah. I mean, if you've not seen that footage on Twitter and want to subject yourself to, it's out there. You can find it. But, video of people still attached to IVs in hospital tents being burnt alive. By people, I mean 19-year-olds, women, children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into more information about this. This article comes from New Arab. Let me move.
There you go.
Forward here. There we go. Editorial that was written by the staff, where they report Palestinians seen burning alive in horrifying videos following Israeli bombing of Gaza hospital. So they continue. Oh,
there you go.
an Israeli strike targeting Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in central Gaza has left an unknown number of Palestinians, many of them wounded patients, burned alive, shocking the videos of the incident have shown. The courtyard of the hospital in Deir al-Balah was filled with makeshift tents housing displaced Palestinians who had nowhere else to go, following repeated forced evacuation orders from the Israeli army in northern Gaza. Horrifying videos showed flames engulfing the hospital and surrounding tents. Screams and wails could be heard in the footage. One Palestinian man who appeared to be connected to an IV drip was seen burning alive, while a woman and a young girl were also seen in the same huge blaze. And we're going to actually speak about that boy that kind of went viral later. I swear to God, we can't do anything. We can't even put out the flame, no water, no civil defense. I swear we can't do anything, and people are burning in front of us. Gaza journalist Salal Jafawadi said, standing before the site.
I mean, that was one of the things first thing I thought of was like, they've not had water or access to water, like to even put out the fires here. So, let alone food, and clearly they're not allowed shelter. So, anyway, continue. Sorry.
That's okay. The strike targeted the hospital and the surrounding courtyards at around 2 a.m. local time, while most patients and residents of the makeshift tent camp were still deep asleep. The Al Kaiser Martyrs Hospital said that at least 4 people were killed and 40 others wounded, some of them seriously. It was already struggling to treat victims of an earlier Israeli strike on a nearby school where people were sheltering nearby, and at which at least 20 people were killed. According to the Gaza-based government media office, this was the 7th Israeli attack on the Al Kaiser Martyrs Hospital. Online, activists and journalists expressed their outrage and horror over the attack, calling for accountability. A year ago, Israel bombed a hospital. There was an international outcry, so a bunch of media and political figures ran cover for them. Now they're just burning people alive in hospitals with zero pretext or effort to cover it all up, one person wrote on X. The occupation army burned human beings alive in their tents. These were patients with IVs still in their arms, trapped and helpless in tents in front of the hospital. This is a Holocaust. Hossam Shabbat, a Gaza journalist who has been covering Israeli assaults for over a year, wrote. Imagine the media coverage if another country burned people alive like this. History will show that Western news organizations utterly failed Palestinians. Journalist Leah Al-Arian commented online. The attacks on the hospital triggered accusations of Western media double standards following the sympathetic coverage of Israeli troops killed in a rocket strike on Sunday night, but an absence of focus on the civilian victims on the Al Kaiser Martyrs Hospital massacre. Sky News in particular garnered widespread criticism after an unprecedented TV report where they named 4 Israeli soldiers killed in a Hezbollah strike on a military base near Haifa.
I don't know if you have the other Sky News stuff that they did with this.
No.
Where they used the pictures of the burning tents and then talked about blamed that somehow on Iran, right? Yeah, it was a fucking really shitty journalistic thing to do. But yeah, not great.
The report came just hours after the strike on the hospital, and as harrowing videos were shared on social media showing the carnage.
Yep.
So this was a tweet from, if you can zoom in, please.
Yes, I can.
From at Shola Moss 1. The double standard is sickening. How dare media constantly humanize murderous, genocidal IDF soldiers with names, age, but deny Palestinians and Lebanese they murder same humanity? Where's daily roll call of names of thousands of Palestinian children, women, men, IDF bastards kill? So this was in response to Sky News tweet where they reported on the 4 IDF soldiers that were killed in the Hezbollah strike that were named, but obviously we do not know. Well, we know a couple of names of the Palestinian patients who were martyred in this fire over the weekend.
Yep.
Palestinians and pro-Gaza commentators demanded Western media name the victims of Israeli attacks in Gaza, particularly those who were killed in the hospital fire. Why are the names of the 4 Israeli soldiers killed while engaged in armed warfare shared on national British television, but not Palestinian civilians? What possible answer is there other than that Palestinian life is judged to have very little worth? UK-based journalist and activist Owen Jones commented.
Also, who is Sky News owned by?
Murdoch.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why.
Mhm.
And you did a segment on him about
Yes, I
a couple
did.
months ago.
Him and his
you can find
pal
it
Piers Morgan. Yeah.
You can find that segment in our playlist. Zoom in, please. So this is
Yes,
also
sir.
from at Lale Khalili. Why do I have to know the name of 4 Israeli soldiers killed in a military operation? Why does Sky not read out the name of the Palestinian person displaced multiple times into a tent and burned alive last night in Israeli bombings? Yeah, so again, just more attention to the Israeli soldiers that were killed, but not the Palestinians that were burned.
Yeah.
The strike comes as Israel continues its ground and aerial offensive on northern and central Gaza, with civilians effectively barred from exiting and entering the besieged territory as indiscriminate attacks on the area continue. No hospitals or ambulances are working in the north, leaving injured and sick without any assistance from emergency services or doctors. In recent days, Palestinians in the north, particularly in Jabalia, have been taking to social media to call for help and awareness of the massacres taking place, saying civilians are being annihilated and exterminated. Spokesperson for Gaza's government media center, Ishmael al-Tobata, said on Sunday, Israeli occupation is committing massacres in the northern governorates, where more than 300 people have been martyred in 9 days during a ground attack and the ongoing genocide. He also noted that Israel is trying to continue forcibly displacing Palestinians in northern Gaza, describing it as the largest and most dangerous American-Israeli plan in the 21st century. Many civilians are trapped under the rubble as Israel continues its bombardment and on-ground offensive in northern Gaza.
Yeah, which they're now starting to settle. Sounds like.
Right.
So, yep.
Actually, I have a little bit more to this. The UN Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Palestinian Territory, Francesca Albanese, denounced the attacks on the north as another massacre. She said Palestinians in Jabalia are killed in both groups and one by one amid unspeakable cruelty and sadism by Israeli troops who have accepted to be willing executioners of a genocidal plan. 7 World Health Organization missions have also been blocked by Israel from reaching the north in recent days, the UN said. The World Food Program, the UN Food Agency, reported that no food aid has reached northern Gaza since the beginning of this month, 1st of October, with fears the civilian population there is being starved to death. So we're actually going to get to that later, because that's more of the update in regards to news that was reported on this issue yesterday. However, while the main assault is on the north, Israel is also striking other areas across the Gaza Strip. Israel's war in Gaza has killed at least 42,289 Palestinians in Gaza and wounded over 98,600 others. The war has utterly devastated the Gaza Strip, plunging it into a deep humanitarian crisis. No, it's not a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, it's a genocide.
It's a genocide. Say that, please.
Yeah.
Any thoughts before we
I
get a
mean,
little deeper into this?
Other than almost uncontrollable rage, not much. Like, unfortunately, par for the course. Like, I mean, I think it's especially chilling footage, but
yes,
I mean, it's been happening. We've been witnessed to it multiple times now. You know, I think I saw someone said that there's not a house in Gaza that hasn't lost people. So,
right at this point,
yeah, you know, so I mean, I keep waiting for someone to do something about it. That would be nice.
Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah,
because the Democrats are doing something in the guise, quote unquote, of doing something, but it's literally just nothing. But I do want to kind of go into, you pulled this up for me.
Yeah.
So this was one of the clips that went viral. So obviously we can't play the video, but you can see the picture there.
Yeah.
But this is a young man that we were seeing in that horrific clip that you probably saw on Twitter. So if you go up, this is Shaban Ahmad Al-Dul, who
Dalu, I
was
think.
burned alive.
Yeah.
Huh?
Shaban
Who was
Ahmed
burned alive.
Al-Dalu, I think.
Al-Dulu, yeah, who was burned alive by Israel yesterday, had just fulfilled his dream of joining medical school a month before the war broke out. Just days ago, he wrote, "I had never seen in my life anything more terrifying than the thought of a person's death, their disappearance in a single moment, their sudden escape, and the possibility of their return. The human mind, with all of its vivid imagination and capacity for understanding and creation, stands helpless before this absence. Were it not for God's mercy upon us, for our faith that this is his decree and our acceptance of it, we would surely lose our sanity." So, as you said, he was 19, had a bright future, got accepted to medical school, I guess, apparently great student. And
I think he was doing somewhere. I heard also computer engineering.
That's what I also heard too. So
a crazy GPA, really bright kid.
Right. So another tweet from Martyrs of Gaza. Heartbreaking. Yesterday wasn't the first time Shaban cried out for the world's help as Israel burned him alive. He had been pleading for the world to save him because he was the sole provider for his family. Now he's gone, leaving behind 2 sisters and little brother with no one to care for him. Don't let his story be forgotten. Listen to Shaban's words. So if you want to play that, we'll get to hear what he has.
Hello from the tent where we reside. I'm Shaban Ahmed, 19 years old. I'm a student studying software engineer. In this barbaric starvation war, we have displaced 5 times so far. Now we are in Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in the middle of Gaza, Deir al-Balah. I'm taking care of my family as I'm the oldest. I have 2 sisters and 2 little brothers and my parents. We live in a very hard circumstances, suffering from various things such as homelessness and limited food and extremely limited medicine. And the only things between us and the freezing temperature is this tent that we constructed by ourselves. I made this campaign to restart a new life in Egypt and evacuate. Thank you.
That noise, by the way, I do believe is drone, probably.
Yeah. More
I'm
like
sure. I mean, it's just sad.
Hello.
I mean, their only chance, right? He's asking to leave at this point. They're being forced out. This is what ethnic cleansing looks like. They're making it inhospitable to live there. That is the point. So,
Tamar Nasir also brings up another point, which leads into our next bit. There's absolutely nothing that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can do, no death toll high enough, no amount of footage of scattered limbs and dead children that will change the liberal mind into believing that they are not the lesser evil. For liberals, the lesser evil is simply the one more capable of leading the empire with a facade of decorum on the world stage. It is not the crime that liberals oppose, but how it's packaged. So, yeah. So basically, a piece of shit with a gold bow on it, basically, is the picture I get dealing with the Democrats. So, as I said, there was an update to this story. So finally, and I say finally in quotations, the U.S. is actually planning to do the business. We'll see. We'll see when if it happens. So they are calling for 30 days making a 30-day ultimatum for Israel because there's been no aid that's been coming into Gaza, which we've been knew this forever. Blinken has known this forever. So technically, Blinken should be arrested right now. He's not.
No.
So if he knew, then this administration knew, but they didn't do shit. So now they're basically like, you have 30 days to ensure that aid is going to get into Gaza. Otherwise, we may, and I'm saying may because, because they're saying within 30 days. So the election is in 20 days. So this is just a shitty crumb. I can't even call it that, but I can't even say saving face because they can do something yesterday. So I'm not sure what the idea is in terms of them giving them 30 days to actually help them. But basically the idea of we'll feed you before we'll kill you some more. So that's basically the idea that they're saying right now.
They're playing election clock games pretty much,
Right.
So,
I forgot what news program this is, but I know it's based
ABC.
in Australia. Australia. So they talk about this, funny enough, because it's Australia talking about American politics.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to talk about this ultimatum, this shitty ultimatum. And then, we'll wrap it up from here.
The US has given Israel 30 days to improve access to desperately needed aid in Gaza or face cuts in military funding. It's the strongest known warning from the Biden administration to its ally and comes as Israel significantly ramps up its action in the region.
The UN says just 80 trucks carrying aid have been made into Gaza so far this month, and the US reportedly wants to see that number rise to 350 a day. Let's go straight to Global Affairs editor John Lyons in Beirut. John, good morning. What is Washington saying to Israel about Gaza?
Well, Stephanie, the White House has written a letter to Israel tonight and telling them that they have a deep sense of urgency about the humanitarian crisis. What has triggered this has been a heavy bombing for now 12 days around the Jabalia refugee camp in the north of the Gaza Strip. Oxfam and eyewitnesses reporting people being burnt alive, women and children being burnt alive. The Israeli army appears to have now encircled about 300,000 people in that area. They're getting no food, no water, no medicines, and the United States is saying this can't go on. They've given 30 days. However, the really odd thing about this is that it's American bombs that are doing most of the bombing. So it's an unusual situation, to say the least, that America is saying you can continue to drop our bombs for another 30 days, but within those 30 days, you must improve the humanitarian situation. You must let more aid into a desperate Gaza.
So what in particular is prompting this toughening in US rhetoric?
I think that the pictures coming out of the Jabalia refugee camp, 12 days of bombing, I think that now with groups like the UN, Oxfam and others, and doctors and American doctors and others who've been there have been writing to the White House saying it is beyond disaster what's going on in Gaza after a year. They're saying that it just can't continue. France, of course, only 2 weeks ago talked about an arms embargo. There was a backlash against them. But I think also with the election coming up in the United States, I think that Kamala Harris realises there's several states in America where there's a significant Arab American population, such as Michigan, and they have been saying to the Democrats, we will not turn up on election day in protest at what your support for the Israeli operation in Gaza. I think those are the factors that are behind it.
And in Lebanon, where you are, Hezbollah has suggested that it is prepared to enter a ceasefire with Israel. Why would Hezbollah be saying that?
Well, Stephanie, another intriguing aspect here in the Middle East, Naim Qassem, the deputy of Hezbollah, has put out a video tonight where it's a mixed message. He's saying on the one hand, we can inflict more pain on Israel, that's his word, and we will do that if we have to. But the really significant thing is that he's saying, let's talk about a ceasefire. It's the second time he's brought that up in a week. Now, what it says to me is that Hezbollah is seriously on the defensive. Militarily, Israel is winning this new war with Hezbollah, with the southern Lebanon, the heavy bombing of the southern suburbs of Beirut behind me. A lot of the command of Hezbollah has been killed, including Hassan Nasrallah, the leader. I think Hezbollah needs to regroup, and I think that's why they are now talking about the prospect of a ceasefire.
Yeah, except we know Israel has said they won't talk about a ceasefire. So, which one is it, dog? I have one more to bring for this.
Okay.
Which I forgot to bring up for a while ago. And I forgot I had it. And then I was like, oh, that would be good. Let me pull it up. So this is from... Hold on. Here we go. So this is from... Wait. You seen this, I take it?
Yes.
From Scar Poetry. And I wish I knew who this woman was to actually credit her. So if someone knows, please tell me. But I figured her words were, very fitting. Hold on.
Can you try that? Yeah.
Yep.
I've been trying to write about Congo, trying to write about Palestine, but I feel so inadequate. I've been trying to write about Sudan, but my heart, what could I say? What could possibly be enough? How do I feed the cry of 12,000 dead Palestinian children in my throat? How do I speak for the dead? And if you do not hear them, how will you hear me? I've been trying to write about Congo, but tears fill my eyes. No sound comes from my mouth. I've been trying to write about war, to ask myself who benefits from this. Viva, viva Congo. You will be free. This poem will not be enough. But after sinking into hopelessness, I have decided to do my little. This poem is my little. This poem is only 5 minutes long. It cannot compact the 30 years of war that have been going on in the Congo. It cannot tell you the story of thousands of people who have lost their lives to that war. It cannot tell you the story of countless children who have been maimed in cobalt mines within the Congo. And as you use your newest iPhone, this poem can only ask you, did you know it was made using cobalt? Did you know that children as young as 6 years old are forced to work in cobalt mines within the Congo? Did you know? You can never fully escape the consequences of war. Not even when you escape your war-torn country. Ask the Congolese refugees living in Mwiki. They'll tell you they die in their houses, too afraid to seek medical attention because they do not have documentation. This country has labeled them illegal. How does a person become illegal? Imagine your very existence being against the law. My mother once asked me, why don't they ever go back home? Don't they have family to visit in Congo? When your country lives in a state of war, your family is not guaranteed their right to life. In light of all this, what does a poem do? What can a poem do? But express my own outrage at war. Say, I stand with Congo, I stand with Palestine. We can never be free unless they too are free. But perhaps this poem awakens you, makes you uncomfortable. I hope it grieves you. I hope it makes your heart heavy, because this are not light times. Countries cannot be in war for over 30 years and we stand and do nothing. I hope this pain does not leave you. Not until it leaves the Palestinians, not until it leaves the Congolese, not until Sudan too is free. Because who benefits from a war, not the soldiers. Did you know that some Israeli soldiers posted to fight in the IOF unalive themselves, refusing to be complicit in a genocide? They would rather take their own lives. So who benefits from this war? Not the children, maimed and killed before they could walk. Imagine having no room to think or dream of a future. What do you want to be when you grow up? I just hope I grow up. What do you pray for? My duas are suffocated with prayers of peace. They leave room for nothing else. The cry of Congo is the cry of the Palestinians. It is my cry. It is the cry of all of us under the thumb of neocolonialism, patriarchy, capitalism. Set us free. Set yourselves free. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Lately, I find myself wanting to pray in Arabic. Maybe Allah will hear me and set the Palestinians free, and as we free Palestine, do not forget Congo. Do not forget Sudan. Oh, Madiba. The Palestinians are still not free. Sankara. Your country lies in ruins. Lumumba. We are still dying for Africa.
And this is why I always say that foreign policy is domestic policy. When we are criticizing immigrants, now granted, do I believe that they should be getting all the benefits over people who've lived here? No, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I am not going to chastise an immigrant for getting the services that I argue they deserve in light of what our elite are espousing on their countries, that they are forced to come here. And then our government thinks, okay, well, if we give them everything they need, then that's a base that will like us. We'll get into that later in terms of the Democratic Party and Black men, because they don't like us either. So to all those assholes online, especially the Black people online that really should know better, but because we do not teach about foreign history, foreign policy, or anything foreign at all, you know, in our media and really in our schools, we're so, you know, isolated to what we do here does have ripple effects everywhere, especially within the global South. You know, we're fighting each other. Meanwhile, the political elite are laughing at us and basically are saying, you dumb motherfuckers, we are robbing you blind, and yet still you choose to point fingers at each other for the blame and the cause of your suffering. So she's right. But given, yeah, I mean, again, it's been hard to keep doing this every week and to kind of hear another fucking Israeli-based, Gaza-based story every goddamn week. And, you know, and nothing is changing, nothing is happening. And I think people are just like, oh, well, we need to vote for Kamala or Trump or whoever because, you know, I care about, like, abortion. I care about, you know, X issue. And are willing to step over Palestinians and and like, we don't talk about this at all. You're willing to step over African nations for your comfort. Well, I argue, I said this before. I said this on Twitter. I'm sure I've said this here. If you're worried about your rights taken away, they're not rights to begin with. Because rights are something that you should have on a basis that you exist. So if you have rights, then everybody should have rights. You can name what they are. So you're being fucking selfish if you believe that Kamala is going to save you from the little rights that, and it's not a right at all, it's a privilege.
Yeah,
it's a little privilege that they're giving you to appease you that they themselves can easily take away if given the proper opportunity.
And same thing on the other side. They're both shit. You know, I forget where I heard it, but it's like the lesser evil of today is more evil than the lesser evil of yesterday. Right?
Yes.
Where it's like,
Nostalgia JB, yeah, I shared that. I think it was another TikTok that JB shared,
Yeah.
I believe last week. So, yeah, it's, because even Republicans back in the day, and it wasn't with Bibi, but with the Israeli government, they were like,
they push back on it a little bit.
they pushed back on it hard. So how is it that even Republicans managed to get that right somewhat, and Democrats can't?
Yeah.
So
It's just, I feel for that lady because I'm with you. It's just exhausting to have to cover atrocity every day, And granted, I feel bad for feeling bad because I'm not the one experiencing that atrocity,
Right.
Like, or it's just hard, So hard for everybody, and hopefully there's some change soon, or worse things will happen. So,
Right.
Anyway, talking about these things, why we're demonetized. If you haven't figured that out, you can scan this QR code, give us a little $1 dues, help keep us running. Go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Links always in the description below. If you can't give monetarily, supposedly all that algorithm stuff, liking and subscribing, sharing the video, commenting, all that's supposed to help. So we appreciate all that. Help us get some more people here. Otherwise, thanks for watching. All right, to the chats before we get to that story.
Yeah.
So let's check if there's lizard people on Rumble. There is one lizard person on Rumble. Yay! If you're on Rumble, use those thumbs. Put them in there. Put some chats in there. Let us know what's up. Tony Bananas on YouTube. No aid has gone in since May. Yeah, I mean, it's... And they let in 50 trucks. Like, that makes a difference when they're bombing them. I still never will get... the first time we talked about that kind of ultimatum from us, it's like, we'll give you the weapons to bomb them, but make sure you feed the ones that survive. What?
Right.
How does that make any sense? It's very frustrating. But TL Orca, is this on? Are we living live? I do believe so. I hope we're live. Hopefully. Driving Miss Maisie. I like the cool retro TV look to the screen. I also kind of like that. Looks good to me. Also helps us avoid some copyright demons occasionally. Hopefully. All goes well. Anyway, you ready for our next one? Middies.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, since we're barreling towards a full-scale war with Iran that we're going to be a part of, I figured we should do some foreshadowing, Collin, of what that might look like. And luckily, Mint Press News' Robert Inlakesh is going to help us out with that, about what that battlefield could actually look like, right? So if people weren't paying attention, we're going to do some looky-loos. All right. So while U.S. Congress showed strong support for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statements on Iran in July, the media has largely shied away from coverage of what potential American involvement in Israeli-Iranian conflict could look like. As a result, the public remains largely unaware of the potential consequences and the specific role the U.S. might play in such a scenario. In 2002, 2002, the U.S. military conducted the Millennium Challenge simulation. Do you remember this, K-Bear? Costing approximately $250 million taxpayer dollars. These exercises reveal that the American military would likely face failure in an all-out war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Okay, would you like to see that? You like to look at that? Let's go look at that. So this is from the National Interest, right? This is by Maya Carlin. We'll get to her in a second, right? So how the U.S. military lost a war to Iran in a simulation, okay? In 2002, the Pentagon convened a fictitious war game to test a future enemy equipped with advanced technology and tactics. Dubbed the Millennium Challenge, the congressionally mandated exercise pitted the blue U.S. team up against the red Iran-like Middle Eastern team, set in a time frame 5 years in the future. So 2006, right? Okay.
2007.
Right. Math. Number, Wang. The warfare practiced involved both live exercises and computer simulations, which cost approximately $250 million. The games grew to... Yeah, essentially, for some more games, right? Someone look up for me what it costs to make the movie War Games. I would like to see if that's less than $250 million. Anyway, the games grew to encompass 13,500 service members participating from 17 different simulation locations across several training sites. Within a matter of days, the red team, that's the Iranian team, sucked 19 blue team ships and rendered its carrier battle group ineffective. While the rules of the game remained controversial, its outcome emphasized the detriment of group thinking and the power of innovative asymmetric warfare. So, guess what, Colin? After the U.S.'s team's quick and miserable defeat, additional constraints were placed on the red team. The control group of the games instructed Van Riper that his team could not shoot down the airframes flying cover for their enemy's ground forces. The red team was also prohibited from hiding their offensive weapons or from using chemical warfare against the blue team's paratroopers. Okay, so they handicapped them, essentially. So, with these extreme disadvantages in place, the blue team ultimately succeeded in their mission to destroy Iran's military capabilities after handicapping them. Right? So, the blue team's inability to use flexibility and quick thinking in its response to the Reds' initial attack reflected a rigidity that would not serve the U.S. well in real conflict. The costliest war game in American history did not play out exactly how the Pentagon had hoped. While obtaining advanced technology and sophisticated weaponry is a crucial component in war, it won't necessarily guarantee a win. Innovative warfare combined with adaptability can be just as lethal. How many times, Care Bear, have I talked about efficiency? If you can do war cheaper, better.
Right.
Right?
Or, well, anything. Well,
yes.
I don't want to say anything. But
yes, there's some like outlet, but with this specifically, right? If it does the same job for cheaper, gooder, better, gooder.
Right.
So the article, the writer of that article is an analyst with the Center for Security Policy and a former Anna Sobol-Levy fellow at IDZ Hazelia in Israel. She has bylines in many publications, including the National Interest, Jerusalem Post, and Times of Israel. So that's Israelis worried about it.
Right.
Just little to give some, context there. But back to in Lakesh, since then, remember that was in 2002, right? Predicting what would happen 5 years after that in 2007. Right. It's now 2024. Sure. Iran probably got better, no? You'd think? Since then, Iran has significantly advanced its missile technology, drones, air defense systems, and even naval capabilities, further complicating any potential conflict scenario. Right? So let's see how that war game plays out there, boys. Washington has repeatedly stated that that it does not seek war with Iran, with President Joe Biden publicly making it clear to Israel that he will not order direct U.S. participation in any Israeli attack on Iranian territory. Motherfucker lies through his teeth, don't he? While Israel is often touted as having the most powerful military in West Asia, with 169,500 active duty personnel across its Army, Navy, and Air Force, along with 465,000 reservists, its forces are stretched thin. They are heavily deployed across the northern front with Lebanon, as well as the West Bank and Gaza. Moreover, Israel's military size is significantly outmatched by that of its adversaries in the Republic of Iran. Right? Iran's standing army is reported to include approximately 610,000 active duty members with an additional 350,000 reserve. Additionally, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a key component of Iran's military structure, is estimated to have 150,000 to 190,000 members, although these figures remain unverified. Beyond these forces, Iran's potential manpower extends further. It excludes a national police force and the Basij, a volunteer social and paramilitary group said to have millions of members, which provides significant mobilization capacity in times of conflict. The numbers starting to not look great for us in this regard. So here's their missile program, right? Their newfangled missile systems and whatnot. I don't know how many those are, but enough. It's also just very propaganda-y. Like a lot of the videos that I'm going to be playing in a bit, but does that not look like a modern army to you?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. I think people think Iran and they think, people throwing rocks,
yes.
No, homie, it's not just RPGs anymore. It's a lot more than that. So, yeah, I mean, I say this about Russia and China too. It's not the 70s anymore, So, again, Iran's military capabilities have advanced significantly, particularly in its missile program, right? Starting in 2015, Iran began conducting major tests on precision-guided long-range ballistic missiles. Since then, it has developed increasingly sophisticated missile technology. As a result, Iran now possesses the largest and most advanced missile arsenal in the Middle East, a program that began in response to the challenges faced during the Iran-Iraq War. In addition to its missile force, Iran has made significant strides in drone and cruise missile technology. Its advancements in drone technology in particular have garnered international attention, including from Russia during its conflict in Ukraine. Right? So we're talking about those supersonics, all that fun stuff. So in an interview with Mint Press, Beirut-based journalist and columnist for The Cradle, Sharmeen Narwani, asserted that Iran could defeat Israel in a direct conflict. Israel is 90 times smaller than Iran, a tiny geography with very vulnerable key infrastructure targets, Narwani explained. The argument can be made that with just a few hundred targeted missiles, Iran could destroy Israel's 6 power plants, 2 oil fields, 2 refineries, 1 oil terminal, 3 gas fields, 5 desalination plants, and its remaining ports and partridges in pear trees. The state of Israel would essentially be besieged and lose any self-sufficiencies overnight. That's pretty fast. So Narwani also noted Israel's military vulnerability. All Israeli air bases and airstrips are identified and potential targets too. One key for Iran would be to stop the daily arrival of U.S. weapons by air, which is Tel Aviv's only lifeline for its continuous bombing of Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. Remember the only thing in that War Games thing, that handicap they gave them? You couldn't take down blue team's air defenses?
Right.
That's this.
That's you.
So,
well,
you know, but that's specifically the one thing they don't want Iran to do, pretty much, is like deal with our air superiority, pretty much. Right. So don't take down our planes. Which, like, the red team's like, no, why wouldn't we do that? That's the smart move to do. So, it's also, their military forces are nothing to joke at either. I mean, they are same as far as commandos and whatever are concerned to me. There's practically no difference between them and SEAL teams, American military force, you know, other than this kind of stuff, which as a martial artist, I cringe at. But, you know, all this is standard training stuff. They can repel just like Marines can in modern gear. You know what I mean? So, you know, they're out there doing battle ropes, hitting people with sticks. You know, they're doing all the propaganda fun stuff. But yeah, I love how people were like, this propaganda video. Have you seen a Marine recruitment ad ever? You know, like same dog, you know? So if the United States were to become involved in direct attacks on Iranian soil as a result of Israeli aggressions, threats have already been issued against U.S. bases across the region. As of mid-August, an estimated 40,000 U.S. soldiers were stationed throughout the Middle East, deployed at military bases in Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and the Arab Gulf states. Iran's missile capabilities recently demonstrated during its retaliatory strikes on Israel in operation known as Operation True Promise 2, Electric Boogaloo, have shown their precision in targeting some of the most heavily guarded military bases in the world. These missiles are capable of striking at much longer distances than the U.S. bases located near Tehran's immediate vicinity. So you remember this?
Yes.
This was them, you know, hitting Tel Aviv, right? You know, throwing a ton of dud missiles at the Iron Dome so that their one or two actually targeted ones made it through, right? So, you know, the community notes here are saying, that Tel Aviv, that's Negev. Uh-huh. Same difference though, huh? Like, anyway. Beyond Iran's military capabilities, the Islamic Republic also has allies throughout the region, operating in Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. According to Sharmeen Narwani, the Islamic resistance in Iraq may still have a significant role to play. The Iraqi resistance has shown that it can participate in a multi-front war against Israel and its U.S. partner, especially now that Lebanon is a full war front, Narwani said. It has done so by successfully launching drones and missiles of higher sophistication and, with more frequency, hitting Israeli targets. Should the regional war escalate and direct U.S. military engagement in support of Israel occur, the Iraqi resistance will likely turn its focus to more accessible targets within Iraq's neighboring borders. In Yemen, the Ansarallah-led government in Sana'a has demonstrated its capability over the past 10 months to overcome the efforts of a U.S.-led multinational naval coalition aimed at breaking the blockade imposed on Israel in the Red Sea. In December 2023, the U.S. launched Operation Prosperity Guardian, designed to ensure the safe passage of ships to the Israeli-controlled port of Eilat. Despite these costly efforts, the U.S. and its allies have failed to break the blockade As a result, the Port of Elliott was eventually forced to file for bankruptcy. Covered that. Yemen's ability to reach Tel Aviv with both drones and missiles, along with its continued resistance, signals that Ansarallah could pose a legitimate threat to U.S. forces in the Arabian Peninsula. Moreover, if Iran were to close the Strait of Hormuz, it would likely succeed, triggering a global oil crisis. In Iraq, the Hashd al-Shaabi, or Popular Mobilization Forces, are another key Iranian ally with an estimated force of around 238,000 men. Hezbollah in Lebanon also commands over 100,000 active duty fighters. Additionally, the presence of Palestinian, Syrian, Iraqi, Afghani, Pakistani, and other militia forces operating inside Syria adds yet another unpredictable factor to the regional landscape. The capabilities of the various militia groups, political parties, and standing armies at Iran's disposal across the region remain largely unknown. However, what is known is that many of these groups are battle-hardened from years of grueling ground battles with everyone from ISIS to the IDF, and that they possess diverse arsenals of rockets, missiles, and drones. Speaking of Mint Press News, Sharmeen Narwani explained, based on what we know about Iran's advanced missile arsenal, Tehran could easily target all U.S. naval bases and assets in the Persian Gulf, as well as those in Iraq and Syria, as we witnessed in 2020. Narwani further highlighted that the U.S. has never been able to beat Iran in simulated irregular warfare gaming exercises unless the Americans cheated, which we just saw how they did, or rigged these games. This is one reason the Pentagon consistently avoids direct military conflict with Iran. The U.S. risks losing billions in forward military assets. So, Narwani also pointed out that potential U.S. strikes on Iran could be costly. If the targets are Iran's key operational infrastructure, this would be a significant loss for Iran, but also a difficult task for the Americans due to Iran's immense geographical size and varied terrain. On the other hand, she noted the targeting of U.S. military bases, facilities, and naval ships is much easier for the Iranians, as these are mostly stationary or easily spotted targets, which could eradicate U.S. military presence in the region. Should the U.S. decide to engage in direct war with Iran, the threats to its forces throughout the region would be formidable. While such a war would undoubtedly be costly for all sides, it is clear that it would not be a simple endeavor. Some neoconservatives in the U.S. have framed a war on Tehran as similar to the 2003 Iraq War. However, Iran is a largely mountainous country, approximately 3 times the size of Iraq in both population and landmass, making a potential conflict there far more complex. And we know both Kamala and Trump have both pushed it. Right?
Right.
So, and their buddies behind Kamala, as in Dick Cheney, Karl Rove, and 500 other Republicans that back her, are more than okay with this. They were okay with it when Bush did it, when Daddy Bush tried to do it, when, you know, like, they're okay with Trump doing it for sure. So, they don't care. So, any thoughts before I move on?
I mean, it just makes it kind of strange. Well, it doesn't make it strange, but it's like you're willing to take out. I'm saying regarding to the U.S., you're willing to take out what? I mean, are people, essentially, in order to gain resources that you possibly may not get because Iran is just that powerful. So it's kind of like the greed, and also kind of like the arrogance of the West in terms of thinking, they might beat us, but who gives a fuck? We're going to give it our college 1-2, and because given the simulations, unless they severely handicap them, as you said, they're not going to win. So it's like, why even try?
Right.
It's almost like, a girl's undercarriage is that good, you know, like even though that you cannot possibly get her, like, but you're willing to do anything in the hope that you won't get her, you know. So that's kind of what it reminds me of, and it's just kind of like we're willing to send our family members for this bullshit.
Yeah. Yep. And I think the minute that any American boots start getting involved is the only time the American public will decide, hey, look at that donation from the Accord Lord. Appreciate you, fam.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. For the boys, he says. But yeah, I definitely don't think this will go the way they think it will. And I think if, you know, as angry as we've been seeing Palestine, I think the entire Islamic, you know, like region is probably feeling very similar things. And it makes your trigger finger pretty itchy seeing some of that. So, you know, I'm sure people have been willing to go to bat for this. So I brought this poem. I found it in another article from Vijay Prashad. So he's pulling Edel Adnan, a Lebanese poet and artist who grew up in Beirut after her parents fled the collapsing Ottoman Empire that became modern-day Turkey. She dug deep into the soil of conflict and pain. The ingredients for her poetry, a voice resonated from the balcony of apartment in Ashrafia, the little mountain, from where she could see the ships come in and out of the port. When Edel Adnan died, the novelist Elias Khoury, who himself died just before Beirut was again bombed, wrote that he mourned a woman who would not die, but he feared for his city, which was suffering alone. Here are a few extracts from Edel's poem, Beirut, 1982, remind us that we are as angry as a storm. I never believed that vengeance would be a tree growing in my garden. Trees grow in all directions, so do Palestinians. Uprooted and unlike butterflies, wingless, earthbound, heavy with love for their borders and their misery. No people can go forever behind bars or under the rain. We shall never cry with tears, but with blood. It is not in cemeteries that we shall plant grain, nor in the palm of my hand. We are as angry as a storm. Closing thoughts, Care Bear?
I mean, yeah, we said this before, but you know, as you said, you know, just wait. If American lives die,
yeah,
and the body count is high, regardless of who it is under, you know, like, I wonder if that's what it's going to take to actually have more people get more livid than they are now. Especially, I don't want to put this hope, you know, but I hope in a way it's under Kamala, because I'm just waiting for something for people to actually, and I was saying this to a friend yesterday, and I think I told you this off camera, yes, but you know, he's going to vote for Kamala Harris because he believes that Trump is the greater evil and all the things, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I was like, well, and I didn't want to continue going on with him, but I basically said, look, I hope that if Kamala does win, that the energy that you have, that you would have for Trump in terms of everyone being an activist and being out on the streets, as we saw like in 2016, I hope you would have that same energy. Like, well, I'll say it this way. He was like, you know, we all have agency in our vote, right? So by default, we should all have agency in keeping our politicians accountable of the things that they promise us. So I said to him, ultimately, I hope that if Kamala wins, that you will do your job in keeping her accountable of, well, the thing is she hasn't promised anything because she's vague as hell. But regardless, I said, I hope that you keep her accountable of the things that she allegedly promises us. That's your job. And he agreed. He's not going to do it, though. Because, he's...
No, they
like,
go back to sleep every time.
No, but and the thing is, he's a black guy. And he's... Like, we grew up, and this will relate to my next story. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We went to the same school, but the difference was, for both of us, we got out of our town. We both went to the same college. Different years, but we went to Boston College. I forgot exactly what he does, but he's in the medical field. So he's good for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, he's going to be all right.
He has a house. So he's going to be all right regardless, even if he may not like Trump, but he will be fine under Trump. The idea is that there are people in this world that are not fine regardless of who is president. And people are not concerned about that. People are not thinking about them. It's just the idea, as I said earlier in the last segment, about your comfort or what you're willing to put up with. And Trump, for some reason, is just like the being that makes people's skin crawl. And I'm like, well, we have a president and a presidential candidate that right now is complicit in a genocide in a country far away from you, but there are people who are affected by it, who want to stand up to them against it, and yet you're shaming people that either do not want to vote or, God forbid, want to vote for Jill Stein. Or any other alternative party or person, but you're not standing up to the very person that is committing the genocide, but you're worried about what Trump is going to do within the next few months, assuming he's going to be president. Yeah, we know what Trump is going to do. Like, he's made no secret to what he's going to do. The difference is that Kamala has spoken out both sides of her mouth, basically being like, oh, we'll send aid. Oh, we'll help them. But at the same time, Israel has the right to protect itself, and we will continue to send weapons to blow up their asses so that we can essentially level it a lot slower, but we will feed them. We will give them medicine and all that bullshit before we kill them. At least Trump is honest and saying, I just want to level the shit. Kamala is like, wants the same thing, but she will pretty it up in terms of humanitarian aid, allegedly. So, which is really worse? Pretending to care or actually speaking with your chest, I don't give a fuck. So, but as I said, if we get involved in Iran and it will become like another Iraq, Afghanistan situation, people will be pissed. And unfortunately, I'm going to laugh at their faces, assuming like if it's Kamala that's leading the charge, it's like, you voted for this shit. It's not like she didn't warn you that she wasn't going to withhold back in terms of what she plans to do regarding Israel's right to defend itself. She basically told you.
Walk around and find out,
so worried about
as the kids say.
Right. Basically.
So, we'll see. Well, talking about this kind of stuff is why we're demonetized. So, pull out your phone, get the camera app out, scan that little code right there on your screen, or go to that code-fee.com/indienewsnetwork, or go in the description. Find one of the ways to donate. We make it super easy. So, appreciate any monetary help you can give. You can't do that. YouTube supposedly tells us that if you hit like and subscribe, that helps. If you share the video, that probably helps too. If you leave a comment, if you click a bell, supposedly all those things make it better for us, but we're not sure. So go ahead, do some science, test that on your own, help that number go up, get some more people here. Otherwise, thanks for watching. All right, chats. Before we get to the next story, see a bunch of people talking about their dental work, which reminds me that I will be going, I think, Halloween, like the 31st.
No candy for you.
Get my wisdom teeth pulled. So, which is fine. I'll get all the discounted candy, which is better anyway. You know? Like, you get that whole, like, cart at, Wally World right after. But, yeah, people talking about... let me go. DC is really not a sane actor here, threatening war with Russia and China for 2 years, and now considering taking on Iran. They are either delusional or complete idiots. Think
Right.
a little column A, a little column B. So, yeah, I mean, good luck. But looking. Bad Cookie said he watched a Marine recruit ad while getting dental work done. Just kidding, but he could see it. Natalie Williams, what a flipping nightmare. So, Bad Cookies, Iran got those black market weapons from Ukraine. I do remember they got a couple of those. Hobo Roadie, additionally, Iran is not fielding a bunch of fucking wankers, as the British would like to tell us. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, like, what was that video you brought where, like, oh yeah, Hezbollah is getting beat, is it?
Yeah.
Is it getting beat? Not so sure about that. But anyway, you ready for our next one? I don't know how long that one's going to be, so we probably should get to it.
Yeah. So hopefully it won't take too long. But I mean, as I kept saying, it's been hard the last few weeks to be motivated to come up with segments for this show. But this one actually was one of the rare ones in the last few weeks that actually I was excited about to do. But in the midst of wanting to talk about one thing in particular, it kind of morphed into something convenient in terms of what Obama said regarding the black male vote and Kamala's shitty response, more likely to his comments regarding the black male vote, that she put out a shitty black agenda, which now, I guess, according to Wall Street Journal, is now not a black agenda anymore. It's an everybody agenda.
And you ain't black.
So, basically. So, yeah. So basically, Obama had a "you not black" moment over the weekend. I guess he was campaigning in Pittsburgh. And now, granted, I don't think he was saying what he was saying to the black men that were in the room directly. He was speaking to people like me. So he spoke over those black guys to speak to people like me who don't give a damn about Kamala. So,
but does he grow chili peppers though? That's what I want to know. You know,
I don't care. I don't care. How many mansions does that man have?
I just find it funny. Did you see that with fucking Cam? She walked up to a ton of black guys. Hey, you go. I grow chili peppers. Hey, lady, so do I. First of all, and my complexion is not as useful in that regard. Like,
well, this is the same woman who allegedly washes her greens in the bathtub. So
yes, and God is good all the time. We know, you know. Like,
yeah, but I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard this, so we'll just play the clip of Obama scolding us.
Come on,
we'll get
people.
to the rest of it.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Now, must say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear,
This
when on
clean.
the one hand you have
Clear, I thought.
somebody who
Oh, well. That
grew
also
up
makes
like
sense.
you, knows you, went to college with you,
Did she?
understands the struggles
Well, HBCU, so I think that's the connection he's trying to make.
and joy that comes.
Fucking joy bullshit.
He's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
Yeah. So
With no votes, she
I got
achieved
some-
it.
Well, I got some shit that I want to say.
Mhm.
Mr. Barack Obama, because I wasn't able to vote then, but I do remember being excited about you in 2008. Like I got on that wave. You know, I saw for the first time probably in my life a black man elevated to the highest position of this country, and I figured, oh God, you know, I didn't think I would live to see the day that I would actually see a black, a black figure in the Western world actually represent me. So even I, who was a non-voter at the time, because I wasn't a citizen at the time, was excited for you. But I will say to you, Obama, we have raised the stakes are a lot higher now. Like, because we expected you to actually do some radical change, sir. And you did not do that, sir. Black wealth tanked under you, sir. Black people lost their homes, sir. You sold out to Wall Street while the rest of us had to struggle in light of the economic fallout in 2008.
Thanks, Obama.
And so we're not going to go with the hokey doke this time of just seeing a black face and just automatically assume that they are entitled to our vote because they look like us, they may have gone to the same schools, they might be middle class or whatever. Like, we have a lot higher standards now. And I know a lot of other people have said this in the space, but I'm going to say it too. It's funny how he talks down to black men. And this is not the first time he has done shit like this. Like, because black men overwhelmingly, even though now we're not voting for the Democratic Party in the same way as we did back then, but it's still sadly so, an overwhelming majority of black men who still vote Democrat. So the question is, are you going to speak to the white men, the white women, the Latino men, the Latino women who are going after Trump? No. We're your scapegoat. So you can go back to your fucking mansion, Obama, because I remember like when Trump, during the Charlottesville thing, I remember like there were a lot of people who were like, myself included, isn't Obama going to speak out against this? Isn't Obama going to say anything regarding this? Where is Obama, with his words of wisdom, like speaking up in terms of, what's happening within the community? And I don't remember really Obama saying much.
He was
don't remember
too busy
Obama
stopping an
saying much.
NBA strike.
I don't remember Obama saying much during like all the police things happening, with Ferguson and all that kind of stuff. That happened under his watch.
Yep.
He didn't talk down to the white cops who shoot us down and still are, But you have the nerve to talk down to me because, as I said online, we're not falling in line to vote for the white female massa. And you know what? You don't have to hear it from me because here's this young black woman who can say in a way that a lot better way than I probably ever could because I'm too nice. I'll let her say what she has to say to you, Barack Obama.
This message is for Barack. Ain't never did a fuck ass thing for niggas in the 8 years he was in the White House ever. Obama. Keep black men's name out your motherfucking mouth. We not about to do that. That's what we not about to do. And I'm a black woman that's not playing with your motherfucking ass, Mr. Biracial. Okay? You ain't did a fuck ass thing for us in the 8 years that you was in the White House. And you think you gonna pop up during an election year and try to scold black men for not wanting to vote for your candidate? Have you lost your fucking mind? I need you to go back into whatever cave and hole you fucking came out of and stay there. You're not about to come out and try to disrespect black men. We're not about to fucking do that. And this is a black ass woman telling you that. It's not happening. I'm not going for it. If you thought that I was going to hop on a bandwagon and be like, yeah, tell them. Fuck no. Be quiet. Be quiet. There are millions of people in this country that are not voting for Kamala. And it's her motherfucking fault. Every time she opens her mouth, bullshit flies out. Teleprompter, no teleprompter. It's all bullshit. We know she was raised in a middle class family. We don't give a fuck. The last 4 years have been hell for us. And you sitting over there with your millions of dollars and you gonna reemerge, come out of hiding when they need you, and then you gonna point your motherfucking finger at black men? It's not motherfucking happening. What Iyanla said, not on my watch. Not on my watch. Take your ass back to the hole you crawled out of with that big ass wife you got and leave us the fuck alone. Period. We shouldn't have voted for your motherfucking ass during the 8 years that you was there. A lot of my people was blinded by the fact that you came out as a dark-skinned man. And they took that and they ran with it. But people are waking the fuck up, and we don't care about color right now. Because people are hungry, and the grocery stores is high as hell. And we have inflation. And we have motherfuckers coming into this country getting more money than the people who have been affected by hurricanes. So we don't give a fuck about what you gotta say. All right? Go back to where you came from and keep black men's name out of your motherfucking mouth. Thank you.
So if you don't want to hear my comments, you can hear hers. So, so yeah, fuck off, Obama. So in light of that, I probably because of that, on Monday, and you know what? As a teacher, you know what this reminds me of? And thank God I don't teach older kids. This reminds me of, like, you know that when you have a book report due and you write it the night before.
Who are you talking to? First of all, like,
but I'm sure you.
That was
right.
that was my MO, bro. That was the average for me. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, I did the same shit, but like,
yeah, I mean, homework was not getting done on my end, so you know.
Is there a more important job than that of a teacher?
What?
No. But this is what this reminds me of, the idea that, like, you know, you put out your agenda like several minutes ago. It's not like people have not demanded a black agenda yesterday. People have been demanding a black agenda for years. So why did you not put out a black agenda at the same time?
She barely wanted to put out a regular agenda. She said multiple times she will do nothing different than Joseph R. Iscariot Biden. All right, like,
well, in all intents and purposes, she didn't. She just copy pasted a lot of what he had. Like, did we forget about the lift every voice? That was Biden's agenda. You could have just pulled that, repackaged that, since you repackaged pretty much a lot of his other policies as well. So, but she pulled this out her ass on Monday. And I will go into this a little bit, and I will and you can make some comments too. So this is the bullshit that she's proposing for Black men. Provide 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to, so there's the language of up to 20K for Black entrepreneurs and others. And I saw a lot of people, even
what the fuck are those others?
Right. And I'm glad that even some of the white commentators even commented on that, and others, to start a business. So
it's also a fucking loan, bro. How many times are they just going to give us loan access? Anybody loan access, and I hope that solves
the language here. But the language here doesn't make sense. But it's like fully forgivable. So isn't that a grant? Like, you know, like
fully forgivable through bankruptcy, maybe. Like,
right. So,
you know,
yeah. What do you mean by fully forgivable up to 20K? What does that mean? You know, so that's the first bullshit. Second one, support education, training, and mentorship programs that lead to good paying jobs for Black men, including pathways to become teachers. Now, I could speak on this for days.
And argue they already do this through grants and, you know, all the DEI people are screaming over this one, I'm sure.
Right. I don't need a government-based mentor. And I think that's so insulting for the idea that, like, what we need in order to improve our lives is a mentor. As if most of us don't know that already or may not get that on our own already. But as from the teacher standpoint, I could speak on this because this is the stuff I yell at all the time. Are you going to pay them well? Are you going to give them the resources in order to stay at their teaching job?
No.
Because no. And what does good paying jobs mean? And what are they? Again, big as fuck.
They're black jobs, bro. What do you mean? You know?
Protect cryptocurrency investments so Black men who make them know their money is safe. Again, this is
that's some I'm sure fucking Golden Monarch in the chat is screaming, as well as Indie with the cryptocurrency scam bullshit. You know, how are you? What does that mean? Pause. What does that mean? Protect cryptocurrency. How? In what ways? Like, you know, that's what let Israel fucking crunch the numbers on all that. Like, yeah, okay.
Right, but the fact that, but you know what though, that this is kind of interesting. The fact that they're even mentioning this, you know, basically they're saying, you know, that Black men cannot attain wealth through normal means. So you have to go to crypto in order to make ends meet, which again, very insulting.
What
so
if fucking like, ChatGPT pull this agenda together for them? You know?
Well, you know what? That's the thing. Didn't and I forgot who it was. Didn't someone in that cryptocurrency, and like Indie, if he was here, he would know this better. I don't know anything about crypto, but didn't some crypto guru essentially like donate money to Kamala or to the Democratic Party recently?
Well, Sam Bankman-Fried, classically.
So if you know if that's true in the chat, let me know. But I'm certain that that's what happened like over the summer. Like some
Sam Bankman-Fried.
No. No. I don't think that's not him. Someone in the chat.
One of them.
So like, yeah. But either way, it again insulting.
The whole RTX scandal.
In terms of like,
they're giving that to Biden. Though,
I don't know. I don't know. Launch a national health initiative focused on illnesses that disproportionately impact Black men. Here's the thing with this. I don't particularly mind this on its own and this will go into the longer part of this segment that I'll talk about later.
Yeah.
However,
What
what
is
the
this?
fuck happened about universal healthcare?
Yeah, well, this is like
Just do that.
best we can do is sickle cell grants. So
Or diabetes.
yes.
Or hypertension. Like the things that, and I'll argue a lot of those illnesses.
Yeah, that's a
Black
class
people
issue more than a black
that's a-
issue, but yeah.
Right. Exactly. But again, universal healthcare. You guys dropped that issue like a bad habit since 2020. All right. The last one, I'm sure you love this one, but this one like really set me over the edge. Like legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for Black Americans to succeed in this new industry, as if
Which they
Black
aren't
people
doing.
Right.
They aren't doing that.
Right, but it's the insinuation that only Black men like weed. Like
It's
you're
not
the
even
biggest and I know.
It's
Like-
not, yes, but also it's not even that. They've been trying to force that. So Florida's been trying to do that too. Like 3 companies have like own all of that industry, right? And like the whole thing is that Black men have been incarcerated for selling this medical herb, right? So
right, exactly. And that's the root of the issue. It's the idea of the criminalization around it. What are you going to do about that, Kamala?
Right. They could do that
What are you
now,
gonna-
by the way. Biden with a swipe of a pen could do that.
Right.
Like, and I don't think anyone would be opposed to it. Other than maybe the pharmaceutical industries. Although they would get right in line and start making their money too. This is about rich folk getting more money too. Don't forget that like Chucky the Shoom has tons of money involved here. So, you know, it's Democratic Party interest wins again. You know?
Right.
So, and they
Yeah,
just wrap
this
it
is-
up in this is all pandering. You know,
And but not even. This is bad. This is just
Mhm.
bad. Like,
yeah.
this is the worst type of pandering you can do.
Mhm.
Like, but the insinuation that all we need is to smoke a little weed and sell some crypto and get some
Meanwhile, she
mentorship and
also
we'll be
she specifically threw a ton of men in prison over it. So
right
while being DA. So, you know,
while
and then
saying,
she gets to go
while saying
laugh on
allegedly,
podcasts.
while saying allegedly she smoked pot her damn self.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
so yeah. She's but
the worst.
So just to preface all of that, as I said, the main course of this segment has to do with this video that I'm going to feature in a second. So this clip, this video was made by Will Tennyson. He's a
Fitness influencer is what I would call him.
Fitness influencer. I have watched some of his stuff in light of me, working out, doing weight training myself, all the things. So obviously the algorithm recommended to me. Like some of his stuff is okay. It's kind of mid. It's not really for me. It's I think more like for teen boys or whatever.
Mhm.
But I found this. But this was pushed in my feed over the weekend, so I watched it, and surprisingly, I actually enjoyed it. So he goes to Camden because Camden is known to be like to have a food desert within the city. So Camden is a city in southern New Jersey. I think I said this to you when I was growing up. There were two places that basically I was
you told me
forbidden to go to.
Camden was great.
Yeah.
You always wanted to go there.
No, like New York and Camden were the two places, like as an early teen, that basically my mom was like, "You're not going there. You don't need to go there for whatever reason." So I've still never been to Camden, even now.
But Philly was okay.
So
How dare she?
I didn't go to Philly either.
Philly's
I
okay,
was
but
New York.
Camden and New York.
No, I was in I mean, I was up by New York area, so like there was no reason to go to Philly. But you know, like obviously I've been to Philly since, you know, as an adult
Right.
especially. But
Good old eraser hood.
But I really I think he unintentionally made a gem. And I think that's also in part due to the person who helped tour him around the city and kind of talk to him in terms of the reality as far as a class issue that does exist, not just in Canada, but you can argue like any city that has a predominantly low income slash people, higher people of color living in them. So but I thought this was interesting in light of what Obama said about black men and what Kamala did with this shitty thing. I thought it was a great way to kind of connect the two in terms of this video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I do think it's worth watching it, the whole thing, especially at the beginning. So I did link his video in the description if you want to watch it in full. We're going to watch, I'll say, about 3/4 of it, though.
Okay.
So I had to split it up in parts because it's just one straight like documentary style video. So it's going to be a little disappointed, but it will make sense. So we'll just play the first clip. It's about 10 seconds just to give
the people in Camden are poor or working poor. They spend on average 40% of their annual income on food.
This is Camden, New Jersey, home of America's worst food desert, meaning healthy fresh foods are inaccessible to the people. They have plenty of food, but it's all highly processed junk. Today I'm going to see how bad a food desert really is. This is like worse.
So basically the idea is like a food desert is where there aren't any really supermarkets or any places really where you're able to. So, you know, that's kind of typical in a lot of inner cities, you know, like, and I actually can speak to a little bit more about that due to a conversation I had with a congressman today, which kind of shows how racist our country is. And it's even in this issue, and how as you said to me yesterday, capitalism plays a part in that. So we'll play it to the next clip. So that's the premise. So Will goes to Camden to learn more. Is it really as bad of a food desert as
they say it is?
Economists say it is? And he goes to a gym. He meets up with a couple of guys who talk, and just surprisingly just start talking to him about the real Camden. So obviously there's a lot of sports related stuff here. Not going to go into that, but we are going to get more into like the food desert type stuff. So let's play the next part.
Do you like all these like big chain like restaurants, like supermarkets and stuff? They're not coming here because I think they think it's almost like a risk to be here. They think they're just gonna like go bankrupt, lose a bunch of money.
Subaru came, Campbell's came, you gotta let the Sixers came. We have kids now, so we want to give our kids quality food. We want to give our kids quality exercise and books and all of these good things. So it does change. We got businesses open in the city.
This the gorillas, this where we play. You gotta come get ugly with these gorillas.
Nah, but you gotta, what was I saying? Man, what was I saying? Fucked it up, Pete. Bro, fuck my whole mind up, Pete. I ain't the one that gotta do that shit.
Dude, it's so crazy. I came in here not knowing anybody. They just let me work in. It's like we're best friends now.
I forgot the black guy's name. I think his name is not Pete. He'll say his name later. But he brought up a good point, you know, in terms of food deserts. It's like the idea, and Will mentioned like Whole Foods and all that kind of stuff. They think of as a big risk to go into like the inner city.
Yeah.
And the other guy made a comment like, if McDonald's doesn't think of it as a risk, Burger King doesn't think of it as a risk. Like, and actually, funny enough, I went to a meet and greet with a councilman earlier today, and she revealed something in relation to this in what happening in DC. She said to me, she's talked to developers in DC regarding, because in DC, same shit. Like in the low income part of DC, I think there's like one major grocery store in the entire area, basically, which is in danger of basically being closed because of the crime. she mentioned to me that developers basically said to her that because those areas generally do not have quote unquote disposable income, that it's not profitable for them to build any grocery stores there. Which makes sense if people in the area cannot necessarily get good food, that they would have to buy their food elsewhere, or end up getting the cheap food because that's what they're able to buy. So there's that. The other thing that she was told was because typically in low income areas, they go on food stamps. So imagine like at the beginning of the month when you get your food stamps, like business will be pretty good. But then once you lose your food stamps after like the second half of the month, people are not going to go in, So again, it's all about money. So it's the idea of, low income people don't have the disposable income, which is not true. They do. And they would spend it if they have the means to spend it in those areas. But the idea that many of them might be under some food assistance, that they have very limited funds, that to them it's not profitable to build a quality supermarket in those areas. That's what I just learned today in terms of how developers think in terms of these communities. So just wanted to add that little bit in terms of, what Will and this guy was saying here. Any thoughts or anything that and I wanted to ask you this because you live in a, I wouldn't say low
weird
income,
spot.
but like,
no, it's definitely low income for sure. I mean, it's weird because it's like not that far from me is pretty high income, right? Like, I mean, I would say 30 minutes, there's multi-million-dollar homes on the beach, but like right where I'm at, which is still on the beach, technically, right? Like, no one's making money here. So, this is an old fishing town where that used to be people's way of business, right? And like, no one buys that anymore. It's all through mega corps that, so like the only place you have here for groceries in the town I'm in is Dollar General. And there's like 2 or 3 of those, depending on which side of town you're on. Right. But
so
like,
if you wanted to get good food, because we've kind of talked about this.
Yeah.
Different
I've got to go to
like
into Tallahassee, which is like 40 minutes to an hour, right? Or into, Crawfordville, which is like Walmart, Publix, like, and that's
and funny enough, and even
30
like,
minutes.
I thought Publix
15.
was like the cheap place. Like I was just in Atlanta, and my cousin was like, "No,
it's expensive." Yeah. So
it didn't used to be that way, but now
even
it's
when Dixie and stuff, it's expensive. Walmart's priced them all out, so it's like, what are they gonna do? But like, I mean, that's the thing, and that's we are privileged enough to be able to afford vehicles that can travel that kind of distance. But I know there's people in Tallahassee specifically, especially on the side of Tallahassee closer to me, that like fucking Whole Foods is on the other side, homie. You know what I mean? Like, you have to go all the way through downtown Tallahassee to get there, through all the colleges, through all the affluent area. Like, there is a hard divide in Tallahassee as far as like, like class is concerned, right? FAMU's on one side of the city. You know what I mean? Like, versus like Florida State and all that stuff is over on the other side. So, it's one side of the tracks has a lot more money than the other for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's food desert stuff here too. We're just slightly close enough to be able to like avoid some of that. And you know, middle class enough to where like that's it works out. You know what I mean? So
Right.
but, you know, why do you think people are like buying their, like you look at Factor meals and stuff like that, where people are mailing in their food, you know, especially these guys, you know, like they're getting supplements and stuff online, having them sent out. So,
Right. Or in this case, because Camden is right across the river from Philly, having to go to Philly to get food. And they're going to go, and they'll get into that later. But so that can kind of continue.
Camden is one of the most dangerous cities in America, with violent crime rates 313% above the national average. Red means danger. That's a lot of red. Because of this, Chris said he'd take us around town so we don't get mugged. So while he goes home and changes, we're gonna check out the city's main grocery store.
Behind me was a Pathmark, which was the only supermarket in all of Camden for 80,000 residents. And as you can see, it's completely abandoned. It went bankrupt in 2013, leaving nearly 300 people jobless. 8 years later, 2021, literally next door, there's a Save-A-Lot. But then all the locals are complaining about the prices of the food and the quality of the fresh produce. We're gonna go inside and check it out. How's it going? Might we ask you a few questions?
Yeah, you can ask me anything you want.
Are you surprised to hear that Camden is a food desert? Which is like, it's a place that's hard to access.
No, it's not surprising.
Okay, but would you say for the most part, are people pretty healthy here or no?
I say half and half.
Half and half?
Yeah, half.
Okay.
I'm poor, but I'm healthy.
Okay, so are you surprised
So
to
I'm
hear?
rich in a way, because I'm healthy.
Yeah, health is all that matters.
Yes.
We're currently in the produce section, which is probably the smallest produce section I've ever seen in my entire life. There's not much. Usually it's like rows of stuff. Not a lot going on here. People were saying that there was like fungus growing on the vegetables, but everything looks to be pretty good.
It was crazy walking the aisles of the city's biggest grocery store and being the only ones. Lack of transportation is a huge issue. A lot of people don't have their own cars and have to rely on a lack of public transportation to get here.
Stanley Hester admits he can't remember the last time he bought fresh fruits and vegetables.
You would have to go for like fast foods, junk foods, things of that nature. As far as quantity is concerned, it's limited.
He's not alone. For others like Stanley Hester, who can't access transportation easily, their only option is the small food bodegas that line many of the city's streets.
So we're in the meat section, a lot of the lower quality cuts of food, a lot of pork. They don't have like super lean meats. Oh, they got chicken breast, $2.49 a pound. That's pretty good. With the exception of that little corner of produce in the meat aisle, the rest of the whole entire place is kind of like a convenience store. Lots of packaged candy, chocolate, chips, soda, popcorn, pretzels. A lot more than the average grocery store for sure. We got kicked out of the grocery store, but that wasn't that bad. That's definitely the best option that the locals have for fresh produce. But a lot of people can't have access to it, like I was saying, so they have to resort to things like fast food, convenience stores, and food bodegas. So we're gonna go check some of those out and see the quality of food that we can get. We're at the first corner store. You grew up on this stuff?
Yeah, we ate a lot of this growing up.
Okay.
Cheeseburgers, cheese steaks, platters, fries.
You don't see that too often. Please remove hoods and ski masks.
Yeah.
This is the hood, right?
Yeah, good.
Wow, dude.
Like this was. Or you gotta go back.
We gotta go back. We gotta go back.
This blocked off.
Looks like the closest thing I'll get to a veggie is an emoji on my phone.
Facts.
And there's all canned stuff here.
Yeah, you got a lot of canned goods.
Is this a predominantly diet for a lot of people?
Yes.
Like the protein sources and stuff?
Wow, high in sodium.
That's crazy because it seems like the produce section is so small. Yeah. But I'm assuming that's because there's not a lot of want for it, or?
But this is it. Juice.
Wow, man.
Juice.
It's crazy.
Like,
it's just it's a very eye-opening thing because like just where I'm from, it's just being able to go and get groceries is so easy. And then here it's just like, yeah.
You ever seen noodles stacked like that in the store?
Jeez.
That's just what we eat, though.
And you say this is like staple diet for most people here?
Staple diet.
Wow.
Noodles is mandatory to have in your kitchen. Peanut butter is mandatory to have in your kitchen. As a kid, you just want junk food, you want snacks.
And then when you grow up on that, that's what you're used to, and you carry that with you. And then you give that to the next generation, and it just keeps on going.
When I was 15, I was working. My daily purchase would be $2 worth of peanut chews, $2 worth of fishies, and a half a gallon of juice every day.
Is this a pretty standard bodega?
Yes.
And then is there any ones out there that are like better? Like better, like
No.
we went to like one like that you would say is like the best one around to get like the best options.
This really standard. This is standard. Like to get better, you travel.
I feel like you come in with a grocery list and it turns out being a wish list because they just don't have what you're after. I noticed there's like a ton of abandoned buildings everywhere.
Yeah.
What's that from?
Fires, people tearing buildings, just condemned buildings, like shit just falling apart. Old families will own them generations ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the kids, the grandkids, nobody took care of the buildings. So they just become condemned.
Would you say like fitness, like the gym, it saves a lot of kids from getting into like the gang situations and no?
School don't save them. A bunch of people are seeking for love and affection from other places. You may join a gang to find brotherhood. Your mom might be on drugs. Your mom might work a bunch of jobs and you might want to help your mom. So you might do what you feel like you got to do.
Right.
And the biggest thing that you see is drugs. A lot of kids turn to it because you don't have that many people showing you amazing lives that are school teachers and corrections officers, and you don't see that. And then a lot of us don't have that belief that we can be those things.
You have kids, right?
Yeah, I got 3 girls.
You got 3 girls?
I got 3 girls, bro.
And
15, 10, and 1.
You don't want them growing up in here, right?
I don't want them around the violence. I don't want them without certain resources.
Do you think a lot of people who live here, it's like one of those things where you can't escape it?
That's a feeling.
Yeah.
That's a real feeling.
I found this interesting. So we were staying in Philly.
Okay.
We didn't have to pay a toll to come into Camden.
But you gotta pay.
But we had to pay a toll to come back. So do you think that's a tactic to kind of keep people here?
It's definitely a tactic.
Wow, man.
To get to Philadelphia
in
with
New
tolls,
Orleans.
it takes 14 minutes. Without tolls, it takes nearly 2 hours. Why can I drive from Philadelphia to Camden so easily? It seems like the people of Camden never had a chance, and it's been rigged to stay that way.
The tolls were designed to pay for the bridges. Once the bridges are paid off, what are we still paying a toll for? You got bodegas across the street from each other. You got a pharmacy, that's one of few. I think it's 3 pharmacies in the city.
There's 3 pharmacies in the whole city?
Yeah, I think it's 3 or 4 pharmacies in the whole city. And we do have a CVS, but the CVS is more on the outskirts. It's closer to actually leaving the city.
All right, so where are you going to get your pharmaceuticals at?
Abandoned building after abandoned building.
Abandoned building after abandoned building. Another pizza shop.
They have to go out.
More Chinese food. That's the 3rd Chinese store.
Or
on this
find
road.
a,
Look, 2 more corner
friendly
stores across
neighborhood
the street from each other.
pharmaceutical agent.
Another liquor store. How
If
much
there
liquor-
are any.
How
No,
much
there
liquor
are
can
there
we
are
drink?
some.
Liquor stores are literally on
Like-
every.
There are some,
Do
but
you think that's
not
strategic
like
to put here? Four people
Uh-huh.
to fail.
Absolutely.
the
Really?
corporate ones
Absolutely.
buy them out.
There's no way that
No,
you
I'm not talking about
only
them.
give access to
Like,
liquor
Oh,
and fast food.
That's it.
We're gonna go to this market.
right, your local neighborhood pharmaceutical rep. You know,
right.
that guy.
But yeah, but this was my town growing up
Yeah.
in Orange, like very similar. Now the difference was I call it hood light because where I lived, if you walked like a couple of miles to the back of my house, there were like mansions. So it wasn't
Right.
entirely like it was a little bit more diverse, but definitely where I lived, it was definitely what Camden was like. It wasn't like the nearest decent supermarket was in the next town. Like to drive to it, fortunately, it wasn't that far. It may have been about a 15-minute drive, or public transportation about half an hour. Like not desirable, but it could be done if I needed to get something from there. But a lot of the supermarkets that's still there were shitty quality. I remember hated going to them because I knew how bad the food was, and like they were always so packed, and like people were just ravaging food trying to get what they get. So it's basically like trying to get what I could and just fucking leaving because I couldn't stand being in it. I was just so claustrophobic. But it just felt dirty. That was the other thing. It just felt very dirty to me. But yeah, that's very typical. It's like, you know, especially as a teen, your diet was basically you'll go to your local bodega or your convenience store and you basically get junk food. And what they don't talk about is like a lot of this food high in sodium typically, high in sugar typically.
Well,
you consume
I
that
would
long
love-
term, like
Will I Know is a pretty in-depth, as far as nutrition and stuff, and bodybuilders for a while have been able to make do, but like, I'd love to see like, okay, you've got to come up with something healthy in here,
right.
Like make a nutritionist do that. And it's like, okay, if you can find a head of cabbage, some rice, and like a protein, and it's going to be the most expensive stuff in the store practically. Like,
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And where's those are like barely good macros. Your micros are going to be terrible,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean,
that would be an interesting experiment, actually, if like some fitness influencer was able to be like, okay, you live in the hood, try and eat healthy for like a week,
right?
And see with limited money, and
minimum
see what you're
wage,
able to
right?
do.
Yeah,
like, and see what you're able to do with that, and yeah, but it's so it's just so this just so reminded me of home for me. And at the time, I didn't know any better until I got older and I moved to college and realizing, oh, this is not good. But then it's like, and I think in a lot of ways that kind of started, kind of the seed, in terms of my politics now, because I was able to get out and I was able to do the things that, I was kind of told to do in order to have a better life for myself. But then I go back, and I say this all the time, like my town has not changed much, if at all, since I left. And that was over 25 years ago. Like, it's still just as rundown as ever. There might be like a few luxury apartments here and there, but generally speaking, not much has changed. The same stores that were boarded up when I was in high school are still pretty much boarded up now. The same supermarkets that I went to growing up are still there and still just as nasty as ever, So it's this class issue that we don't talk about, that is not reflected in what Obama was saying, and it wasn't reflected in like this shitty plan that Kamala is proposing. And then, as I was saying earlier, like, a lot of this food is bad for you.
Yeah.
And you're eating that constantly, and that's what's going to get you sick. And then you may not have healthcare in order to take care of it, and you don't go to the doctor because you don't have insurance. So that's kind of the cycle that people of color and low-income people like have to deal with. And they're trapped essentially in the situation that they're in because they have no other resources in order to better themselves. And that's what is not being discussed in terms of the greater conversation a lot. It's just, oh, we're just going to give you a few crumbs, but not necessarily due to the main issues that can help these vulnerable populations.
Nothing will fundamentally change,
Right.
So, and the only thing they got is voter shaming. They got to shame you into it. So I ain't buying it anymore.
Right.
Anyway, we got a little bit left, I think, right?
Yeah. Got a little bit more, so go ahead. Oh, those sounds.
Gyms. They got even Chipotle's. I associate Philly with like cream cheese and Philly cheesesteaks, but I think for people here, it's kind of like the Garden of Eden. It's just crazy that like they have all these things. It's like, why can't it come here?
Yeah. What prevents Camden from being the city that it could be? The main issue is poverty. Camden was once America's poorest city in 2012, now with a median annual income of just over $27,000 and a 36% poverty rate.
Another thing about Camden being a fitness desert is that they're saying that like a lot of people are actually afraid to go for runs. A lot of people are afraid to go to the parks. And the park is like the best place. It's basically a free gym membership.
Bro, we don't run for exercise here.
You run because you have to, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's just what we always knew. If you run, I'm running. I don't know why you running, but I'm running.
Literally.
I ain't waiting to find out.
So it really seems like your generation is the ones that are going to fix the city.
I believe so.
Yeah. For like to set your kids up for.
We just have to get back to being taxpayers and being owners in the city. We can fix it. Yeah, we can fix it.
Hello. It's so cute.
Thank you.
Do you find is it hard to eat healthy around here, do you think?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
I've been homeless for 4 years. I was homeless when I was pregnant with him. So it's really a struggle out here. I don't have a job right now.
Right.
So it's even harder. Food stamps don't cover it that much. A lot of people out here, it's, you know, pregnant and then drugs and stuff like that. But we women like do struggle. And me as a mom, I'm struggling at the moment. So it's even worse.
What do you think is the biggest thing the community needs to like help people?
Food, clothes, a job. And if they accept it, because sometimes here in Camden, I don't think they would.
They don't accept it.
But women, they'll do anything for their kid, and especially with diapers that they need, like formula, it's super expensive. So it was really hard. I cried. I was stressing.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Through snow, I dealt with it one time, and it's really rough. My feet got numb. I was super cold. It was terrible. I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And I was trying to go to the shelter, but by the time I got there, it was closed. So I was freezing, looking for somewhere to be warm at. Hopefully, in God's hands, you know, I can leave it on and He can give me this job. Because I've been applying for jobs and none of them have been able to hire me. So I'm doing my best to do it.
Oh, he looks amazing. So
Thank
cute.
you.
Yeah. Oh. Hi. Hi.
This is where the Democrats fucking failed.
Mm-hmm.
They failed that mom. And she told you what she wanted. All she wants is a good paying job and being able to take care of her baby. That's it. And food.
Yep.
That's it.
Food,
That's
water,
it.
shelter.
The rights that you're afraid of Republicans taking away. And we have Democrats in the office right now that are not giving it to you.
Yeah.
Or
And
they might give
speaking
it
of
to you.
Obama, go take a look at Chicago. Go see if it's any better. You know?
Right.
Like, you know, I mean, I can
But
say
no,
that for
he's
every
putting his
major
mu-
city.
Right. No, but he's putting up his museum there, which was controversial as hell because he
Still
was
is.
building it in the South Side where a lot of Black people of color live, and basically having to tear down houses in order to have his vanity project there. So, but I mean, yeah, there's one more clip that I wanted to show. And I mean, it's wholesome in terms of like, I appreciate how Chris is hopeful in this, in terms of
Right.
like, yeah, we have to be the ones who can change it. And I definitely believe, because he's a corrections officer, I definitely believe, I want to believe that he can be one of those leaders in Camden that can actually make that change. But that's going to also take, unfortunately, the will of politicians that genuinely care and are genuinely willing to fight for him and that young, we don't know her name, but that young woman with the baby, to ensure that they have the basic shit that they need in order to live properly and not have to be so concerned about drugs and like education and food and like all the things, you know, that we can take for granted.
Well,
You know,
I hope homeboy Will here actually helped out too. That'd be nice. You know, seeing as how he's got some to give, but you know,
Right. Let's watch this last part. It's
Yep.
short, so.
Thing, dude. So far, it just seems like growing up here, you kind of have two paths. But the very easy path is to go down like the wrong road, and then it's really hard to kind of get out of it.
At the same time, though, that easy path is the hardest route because it comes with so much. So then when you compare the right road, which already has its challenges, now you're just trying to steer clear of the bullshit.
Yeah, I related to that quote. It's the idea of like, if you live in the hood, you have two paths. And then the easier path is like the drugs and like the gangs and all that kind of stuff, but you get into trouble later on. To do well and to kind of get out of it, ideally, like would be harder initially, but it gets easier later. And I definitely relate to that because that was kind of the thing that was kind of forced. Well, I kind of saw what I wanted for myself, so I really wanted to work hard in order to get out. And I did, but I know for other people, they weren't so lucky. You know, like, and I knew people who were in a lot of ways smarter than me and still are kind of trapped within that bubble that is poverty, given, like, you know, in towns that I grew up in. And again, this is like, these are the things that Kamala is not speaking to. These are the things that Obama is not speaking to. These are kind of the things that the Democratic Party is not speaking to. And this is why Black men are just so disengaged. When you're talking down to us in terms of, oh, you need to vote for this person, but we vote for you in order to change people's like Chris and our lives, and we just see the same bullshit happening year after year after year after year, and years turn into decades in the same towns, still run down, still like no basic needs are being met. People are hungry. People need resources, basic resources that in rich neighborhoods they take for granted that you can get. But you're forcing down our throats to vote for Kamala because she's Black and she's like us. No, Kamala never lived like this. She never lived like that. I can say I really didn't live that way either, but I can sympathize because I was in proximity to it. So I understand it. So yeah, I was just so livid over the weekend because I realized why I was so livid, because this is my life for a bit. And I realized that I was one of the lucky ones. And I want to do something, like, I hate going back to my town and just seeing how decrepit it is and just being like, shit. Like, I'm glad I got out, but I know others who are still here and are not doing well.
Well, meanwhile, my hometown is probably still underwater right now. So, you know, like same, different situations, you know, like,
right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think most of this was distraction and voter shaming and whatever for me.
No, but I think the hope is that, I think the one thing, especially being as a Black man, I think I will end the segment with this. Black men are beginning to become more vocal, and I think especially in light of what Obama said in particular, like, he got a lot of backlash, especially particularly from liberal media, which I was kind of surprised at. But I found this clip earlier today from MSNBC, and Black people had their shit to say. So it's short, but I think it relates to what we just saw in Camden and how we've seen this in New York, Chicago, Detroit, LA, Dallas, New Orleans, Orlando, like any major city. You know, this is, I believe, the beginning of the resentment that Black people have regarding the Democratic Party. So yeah, you can play it. No sound.
Sorry. Not my fault.
The Democratic Party has left Black voters in the dust.
It's almost like they want to seduce us with Obama. Gas was cheaper. I know that my bills were cheaper. Life was better under President Trump.
I think it's touch and go right now. I see shades of the Hillary Clinton campaign with the arrogance of a Democratic Party out of touch with the electorate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about better under the Trump campaign, but, you know, I think that's the argument MSNBC is going to make. you know?
Right. But the last guy said it. Like, they're fucking arrogant.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party has become the party of the college elite. And not even like the Ivy League elite. That's what it's become. They have not the party of Chris. They're not the party of that woman. And I can even argue they're not the party of me, because I'm in those spaces and even I am yelling at me like, do better. And they won't even listen to me because of my skin color. It's just the idea, oh, you're a college, you have privilege, so you're fine. I know I'm fine, generally, but I know others who are not. And I make this point, yeah, the issue that I have with Democrats is that they don't do anything spectacular for people that they really can see or feel change. Like, we talked about how I got the rest of my student loans forgiven. Like, that was spectacular for me. And I felt that, and I get that. And not to say I'm thanking him for it, but I understand that. But I want others to, the difference is I want others to feel that way too, in whatever they need. That's the difference. I'm not just going to take my shit and be like, deuces y'all, you screw y'all. Like, I want that for everybody as well. And I don't know why those fucking balloons came up. Oh yeah, I did the peace sign.
You did the peace sign, that's why.
So,
yay!
Right. But to conclude, we say that we've been saying this, but we've had someone who's been saying this like before we were even born, and probably saying it from the grave, in terms of the Democratic Party and how Black people in particular have not been supported by them. And I think it's good now that I think that Black people are starting to notice and are leaving the Democratic rows.
Yeah.
I don't like that they're going to the Republican Party though, but at least they kind of see how Democrats ain't shit. And Malcolm X, for all intents and purposes, basically said that they ain't shit. So let's end with this.
I'm going to tell you, voting ain't going to do shit at all. So, but that's just me. Like, if you're hoping for an elected official to save you at this point, we got a lot more work to do. But anyway.
So you're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republicans. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you bash controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you, because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. I know you don't like me saying that, but I'm not the kind of person who come here to say what you like. I'm going to tell you the truth whether you like it or not.
Was he wrong?
Nope.
No. So to conclude, shout out to Will. Again, if you want to watch the whole the video clip, it's about 25 minutes long. We linked it in the description. Show him some love.
You got no friends in Washington, D.C. Your enemy is laughing at you.
And also shout out to Chris in the video as well, the corrections officer that gave him the tour around the city. I think it got elevated in a lot of ways, mostly because of him. So I don't think Will could have done that on his own apart from Chris. So so at least, you know, in the chat, if you do go to that video, show some Chris some love as well, because I think he was definitely a real one. And, you know, and I would want people, you know, to be able to kind of see and think in terms of how we can make his and others in his situation a lot better. So and then Will, if for some reason you ever want and we're here. But in talking about stories like these is why we're demonetized, and YouTube hates pushing us in the algorithm, but we're gonna try anyway. But we definitely need help in, you know, helping us get to a bigger sub count so that we're able to show more content like this, hopefully a lot more substantive kind of like this. So if you want to support us, please scan the QR code with your phone if you choose to, or you can check out the link, the Ko-fi link below, or if you're in the YouTube chat, you can type in !donate to click on the link, and you can donate to us right then and there. And as always, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And the only way that we generally tend to grow is by word of mouth. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to us and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this segment, you know, and what you think in terms of, especially if you're in Jersey or in the area, what did you think? Did they represent Camden in the way that I think is more realistic compared to what people might say it is? Definitely want to be interested to hear your comments on that. And help us get to 3K so that we're able to continue growing and we're able to reach to more people who want to hear the truth through independent media. I thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, cool. All right, to the chats.
To the chats.
We got Sunrise and Wild Rose holding it down over on Rumble. Yeah, Rumble's pretty quiet. Anyway, what we got on the YouTube? Let's scroll up.
So TL Oka, I think he was wondering if I was talking about London. No, I was actually talking about Orange, New Jersey in a lot of this, but actually, come to think of it, London, when I lived in London, well, I lived in 2 different neighborhoods in London, like one that was like middle class at the time. It's been gentrified as hell now. And the other neighborhood was in a affluent neighborhood. But I can't compare the two. I don't think it's a fair comparison because at least in the UK there is universal housing. Public transportation was generally so much better than a lot of cities. So even if you didn't live near a good supermarket, it was relatively easy to travel to one, at least where I lived. So yeah, so it's very different. So I can't even I don't think it would be a fair comparison. But I grew up in at least initially as a young child in London, I lived in a middle class neighborhood. But it wasn't like what people would experience here. And food is generally better. Like a lot of the chemicals that we put in our food here are generally banned in Europe. So you're not going to get the same type of, medical issues as
GMOs and stuff too.
Right. Yeah. So you're not going to get a lot of those issues with the food that you do get here. So yeah, so generally it was better. You know, in terms of it was better overall, at least in my experience.
I saw Orca too much election is part of the distraction. Yeah, yep.
Mhm.
It's funny how Obama, after a biggest atrocity, like comes out and makes a whole news cycle. You know, Kamala smoked that time traveling herb, says Fred Edward. What else we got?
Fred Edward also said food stamps no longer get delivered once a month. In Indiana, your card gets recharged by the date based on last name. So every day of the month, different households get their benefits. True, but again, I was just repeating what the councilman told me. But that's what she said in terms of developers who put in supermarkets and all of that. That's their take in terms of we're not going to put like a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or even one of the bigger chain supermarkets in a low-income neighborhood. It's the belief that the money isn't there to justify them putting one. But as Chris was saying, you could put a McDonald's there, you could put a Popeyes there, you can put an IHOP there. That seems to be okay, but not like an actual supermarket for you to get fresh food and vegetables.
Yeah,
make that
for sure. Well, it's like name a city that actually tries to take care of food insecurity in any way. They have how many trees line the middle of the highway? You know, like that can't be fruiting trees. That can't be, you know, like anything. Do anything other than just talk.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Bryce Smith says out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, which is basically politicians.
Yeah.
Bad cookies. You don't need a pharmacy. All you need is this fentanyl I got for you. Alphabet agencies.
Right. Golden Monarch, the Carl's Jr. signature $6 signature burger is still $6 though. So,
right.
You know, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just frustrating. So anyway,
but I think, I think, as I said, the segment that Will did was surprisingly good even for him. But again, I think a lot had to do with the people that he met that helped.
Was around. Yeah, I don't think he was thinking that was going to happen.
He wasn't. No, he wasn't the star. He was the supporting cast. So, but I think the people that he connected with and interviewed elevated the conversation and actually made it more substantive. So I, at least for that, you know, I have to thank Will at least for being willing to do that. But he, by happenstance, connected with the right people that was able to bring it up to quality that he usually does. So
usually the problem is
capitalism.
Most of the time, and it's not even really electoral or political. It's the money powers, you know. But
it's the feature of our system, not the bug.
Yeah.
So
speaking of, I figured we should talk about some monetary financial things related to the Palestine conflict. So we're gonna get into that. So I found this. I think it was through SheerPost.
Yes.
So, which I haven't heard of Jason Hickel. I'm sure people will inform me of who this person is. You know, he had a whole list of acolytes. But he writes why Liberated Palestine threatens global capitalism. So this is an excerpt, right? And from a clip, which I'll pull some of the clip here in a second. But luckily there's a transcript, nice and easy for us. So a liberated Palestine means a liberated Middle East. A liberated Middle East means capitalism in the core really faces a crisis, and they will not let that happen. It's funny Like, I'm always asked to talk about ecology when really what I want to talk about is capitalist imperialism, and the two are just a piece of the same problem, right? The ecological crisis is ultimately paying out along colonial lines, right? We know that this is the countries of the imperial core that are overwhelmingly responsible, and specifically the ruling classes who control the means of production and energy systems and investment, etc., are overwhelmingly responsible for the excess emissions that are driving climate breakdown. We know that's a fact. We also know it's a fact that the global south suffers the overwhelming majority of the impacts of climate breakdown. So, too many. The people who have contributed literally nothing to the crisis whatsoever, not contributed a small amount, contributed nothing, right? And it's not just, of course, climate breakdown that we face. There's also other dimensions of the ecological crisis, and here too, we see the same thing playing out. When it comes to excess material use in the world economy, overwhelmingly, it's due to excess material use and accumulation in the imperial core. Half of the material that's used in the core is net appropriated by the periphery from the territories of the global south, which causes severe damage. You don't see this damage in Sussex or in Finland. You see it in the Congo. You see it in Indonesia. You see it in Bolivia and the frontiers of extraction. The core benefits and everyone else suffers. Any questions so far, Gare Bear? I feel like
No.
we're right on it. So,
Self-explanatory.
yep. Which we'll let him explain a bit further. And bit.
The ecological crisis represents processes of colonization and appropriation, and also is a disaster that's playing out along colonial lines. I think that's really important to spell out. And if we're not attentive to those colonial dimensions, I really think we're fundamentally missing the point. We're fundamentally missing the point. The other thing I want to point out here is that we're in this incredible paradox, right, where the world economy, we know, is just massively productive. Like, our productive capacities are incredible. Think of the scale of the labor that humanity has at its disposal, the resources, the technology, the factories, the energy, the materials. Incredible amounts of production to the point of breaking past ecological limits. And yet, the vast majority of the human population lives in conditions of massive deprivation. 80% of the population can't meet basic needs. So what explains this incredible paradox? It's ultimately our system of production. The social and ecological crisis that we face, which appears unresolvable, is ultimately a symptom of our system of production, capitalism, where our productive capacities, our incredible productive capacities, are organized overwhelmingly around what is most profitable to capital and what can most facilitate accumulation in the core, rather than what is obviously necessary to meet human needs and achieve our ecological objectives. And so we're in this wild place where it's like, oh, solving poverty is just going to take generations, right? If we're lucky, we'll get people above $1.90 a day by the end of the century, right? The climate crisis, who can figure out how to solve this? It seems intractable. None of this is true. It's lies. These are problems that can be very easily solved and very quickly.
Where's he wrong so far? You know?
He's not.
Pause. Okay, cool.
It's just funny how it just reminded me of. It's funny how Kamala can talk about, or at least her campaign is talking about joy, when
Right.
at least 60% of our population in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. And again, going back to the segment that we just played previously to this, we talked about that young woman and her child basically being like, I'm homeless, I need money, I need food, I need shelter, I need care for my kid and for myself. Like that, she didn't sound like joyous to me.
Yeah.
Like, so it's the reality that more than half the people in this country are not experiencing any sort of joy whatsoever. And the gall of this woman to kind of think in her bubble, like, oh, but I find joy. I live in a sheltered mansion off of Embassy Row in DC. I get whatever I need, in terms of I can go to all of these cool events and all this kind of stuff and hobnob with celebrities and all this kind of bullshit. And I have joy and you should have joy too. And it's kind of like, no, like the reality is most of the world is not experiencing or feeling the joy that you claim that we should have if we vote. And that's the thing that just drives me nuts.
Well, the problem is, Care Bear, we don't have control of our own productive capacities because we don't have an economic democracy, right? Some of us live in political democracies where from time to time we get to elect government officials, but when it comes to the economic system, not even the pretense of democracy is allowed to exist, and that is ultimately the contradiction we face. I think this is a crisis that at its root is about capitalism and can only be resolved by overcoming that fact. And the antidote to capitalism is economic democracy, that we should have collective democratic control over what we are producing, what the goals of our production are, who benefits for our production, and so on. And when we do, we can solve these problems quickly because we know what to do. So we'll let him, oh, come on. There we go. Bip. And bip. Cool.
Right? We know exactly what to do. The problem is we don't have the power. And so I think that in the face of this crisis, we have to have clarity about what has to be achieved, and we have to start building the movements that are capable of achieving that. For the South, there's another element I think we have to pay attention to, which is that they need economic sovereignty, right? They need economic liberation at a national level first. The global North is overwhelmingly responsible for the crisis, but the global South, we know, also needs to engage in ecological planning, energy transition, et cetera, et cetera. How does anyone expect them to do that when they do not have sovereign control over their own resources, their own labor, their own lands, their own energy, right? Under the thumb of structural adjustment programs that prevent them from using progressive industrial policy, prevent them from using progressive fiscal policy, prevent them from using progressive monetary policy, basic tools that we know can allow them to achieve developments and ecological transition, they are effectively denied from using.
Any questions?
No.
Well, I mean, I do find it interesting that, we've said this before, you brought on Dr. Africana, where it's like we got to stabilize the global South, before they have the power to do the things they need to,
Right.
So, but what is the solution to that for the South is struggles for economic liberation. Now I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that a struggle for economic liberation in the South is fundamentally antithetical to the capitalist world economy because accumulation in the core depends utterly on the cheapening of labor and resources in the global South. It depends utterly on that and has for the past 500 years. And so any attempt by liberation struggles in the periphery to achieve economic independence, to use their own resources for their own development, for their own ecological transition, for their own human needs, is destabilizing for capital in the core, and capital reacts with the most extraordinary violent backlashes. We see it happening all the time. Now, it's Palestine. Before it was Libya, before that, Iraq, before that, Chile. Before that, Indonesia, before that, the Congo. It will never stop. It's over and over again. So, any questions before I move on? I think you're on it.
No.
So,
yeah,
I think the West is worried. So we'll see why in a second. But here's Donald Trump says he will impose 100% tariffs on countries that abandon the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. That's all your BRICS countries, right? Brazil, Russia, China, so we'll hear him.
If a country tells me, sir, we like you very much, but we're going to no longer adhere to being in the reserve currency, we're not going to salute the dollar anymore, I'll say, that's okay. And you're going to pay a 100% tariff on everything you sell into the United States. and we love your product. I hope you sell a lot of it into the United States, but you're going to pay 100% tariff. He will then follow it up by saying, sir, it would be an honor to stay with the reserve currency. That will be like just playing. That's not even chess, that's checkers. But you don't have other, listen to this, you don't have other people that can talk that way.
Well, how do you think that's going to work out?
Not good.
Because we've been seeing a lot of those tariffs affect us negatively. So good luck with that. You know? But yeah. Well, we're going to let Jason finish up here, I think. So this segment was short anyway. But here we go.
And I think the situation in Palestine right now, we have to understand, is not primarily a moral one. That's how we think of it. That is not how capital thinks of it. For them, it is a matter of suppressing and crushing liberation movements, because a liberated Palestine means a liberated Middle East. A liberated Middle East means capitalism in the core really faces a crisis, and they will not let that happen. And they're unleashing the full violence of their extraordinary power to ensure it doesn't. And so I think that's really what we face, right? It's the world system dimension of the violence that we're seeing. And we have to be cognizant of that, and our struggles and our resistance have to be in proportion.
So that's why I wanted to bring that, just as far as like, you know, me and Indy have talked about what they want to do with Gaza after they ethnically cleanse it, right? Build electric vehicle factories and, you know, all to benefit Western power, pretty much. So,
right.
You know, as much as this is a moral thing and is religiously persecuted genocide, it's also economically connected. So follow the money. You'll see a lot of the same players. You know, you'll see Dick Cheney is getting the first oil deal in the Golan Heights. Funny how that works. You know, you'll see that shit. So please do keep an eye on the economics of all this, as well as the moral justifications. But closing thoughts?
I mean, we've talked about this all the time, but you know, like the global south is the core, as he said, is the core of the resources of the world, and we have to protect it, but we shouldn't. And that's why, you know, and I think we've mentioned this. I know Savvy has mentioned this, you know, on her show. You know, the idea of like thinking of social democracy, you know, is flawed, because in order for us to get, you know, even in the best, like we talk about like the Scandinavian countries as the standard of, you know, especially Bernie, you know, like that idea of living here, but that still deals with the idea of exploiting people elsewhere. So, you know, so what's the true liberation tactic that all of us can be liberated and not necessarily dependent or exploit others in order for us to have our liberation? So we've been talking about in regards to the Palestinians and like our rights here. And that's why, again, like foreign policy is local policy, domestic policy, sorry, because we can't think about our own rights. And if we say, you know, we in this country value the right of freedom and the pursuit of happiness, and the right to life, we should ideally want the same rights for everybody, regardless if they live in this country or not. So what are we doing to ensure that people around the world ideally have the same rights as we do, and not, again, not to exploit exploitation, but to ensure that they are truly liberated in whatever that means for those countries. So yeah, I think just food for thought, I think, as we close out. But
for sure.
Yeah.
speaking of economic freedom, scan that QR code. Go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Let us be a little bit more financially independent. Always appreciated. Donations are always welcome and appreciated. But if you can't give monetarily, you can always just like and subscribe, hit the share button. You know, we're only word of mouth is about all we got right now. So share this with your friends, leave a comment, you know, let us get some more people in the club. So, you know, make that number go up. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Cool. Well, you can also just get yourself some merch if you want. Who doesn't want some merch? Either a little iron and bucket hat. I'm waiting for someone to get it, bro. You know? But anyway. Well, what's happening in the chats, Care Bear? We should probably also look at what's happening this week.
Yes.
Yep. Cool. You're not going to be here next week, all right? I do believe.
No. I am not. So
we'll figure that out. And depending on when I get my wisdom teeth pulled, maybe no shows for that too. But that'll be like a couple weeks from now. So like probably how do we miss that? I'm betting that week. And then maybe be back that Wednesday, hopefully. But anyway, what else we got?
Just checking comments. There's one that I saw.
Yeah.
Right. So bad cookies. I think this was talking about the last segment. You can always start a garden in your backyard, but getting a national movement to garden areas that are unused or inhabited by ecosystem is a massive undertaking. Yes, and actually that's something, if you watch the full documentary from Will, they talk about that in terms of, you know, like the solution that Camden was making is city gardens.
Yeah.
The issue with that's a lot of infrastructure. Not a lot, but like
to
that
feed
takes
an
a lot of
entire
resources
group of
and it's more
people.
important.
Yeah.
Right. And that takes time. Like it's a lot easier just to go to the store and just get it versus growing it. I mean, there's a value in growing it yourself, but that takes time in order to grow it.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think it's fine if you can do yes and, you know, ensure that you have fresh food in the supermarket when you want it, in addition to being able to grow your own as a supplement to that. But you're right, it is a massive undertaking and a lot of political will in order to do that effectively. So, and even with gardens, it's not enough, especially if like in an area, you know, like one supermarket might serve over 100,000 people. That's not going to be a sustainable model. So, and it also kind of depends on where you live in the country. Like if you live in a cold climate, you can only grow food, like unless you do like an indoor garden, which again, more infrastructure. You can only grow food certain times of the year. So, you know, so so there's a lot that's kind of dependent on climate, and then even then with climate change, who knows what's going to happen with that. And then, you know, so yes, I do agree with you on that too.
I mean, you could set up a game show where Camden residents fight for food. I bet they'll come up with that idea probably. Netflix will have it on next week. Yeah. Anyway, Indy sent you stuff for this week, I'm betting. I think that's what I heard. He said no. We missed that first 2 weeks of November. So
okay,
that's a thing.
Okay, so tomorrow, Politically Homeless will be live at 6. All these times are Eastern Standard Time, for those of you who are new, by the way. On Friday, Angel will be live at 7. You didn't play the Politically Homeless one.
She's homeless. She's homeless.
And then Angel at 7. American Tradition Clip Show at 10:30.
It's an American tradition.
Okay, Saturday night wrestling talk. What time? That's at 8, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do believe.
Sunday, how do we miss that? And Boats with you and Indie.
Yep.
Monday night, the Maple Files will be back because Yeti has internet.
Lord Nelson's trousers, it's the Yeti.
Next Tuesday, there will not be a new American tradition, so taking a night off. It will be on the 29th, so in 2 weeks from now. So System of it, I guess that's the title. System of a Down. So I guess
System of a Down. Susan System of a Down.
You should tell Jesse to dress up as the Cat in the Hat or something, since that's like Halloween week, whatever.
Yeah.
And then next week, depending, we either you be live with somebody probably.
Yeah, probably.
Or we'll do.
I could figure something out.
Or do a rewind show if.
Yep.
You don't care to do stuff.
plenty of stuff y'all missed in the backlog, so we can always do that.
So, but I'll be back. But I'll be back in a couple weeks. So I just have an event next week that I have to attend, and I will not be in any condition to
stop having a life. Just do this all the time. God, who needs friends and things to do?
Actually, it's a work event, so no.
All right. No, I think that's it. If we miss anything, you can always go to our Twitters, find all the links to all the people down in the doobly-doo. Go find that Linktree, indienewsnetwork. Should be easy to find everybody there. So go get a follow, unless those platforms suddenly disappear us. We'll be around. There's always places, so keep an eye out. But anyway, as always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye, have a great time.